Part 57. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 563. Sure enough, it's here. Jia Yan piloted the aircraft and did not show any surprise at the pursuit of several warships. This article is written by LW Kai 520. Initial release. He turned with his front foot, causing the aircraft to make a sharp turn. Bo. The light emitted by the electricity narrowly missed the outer shell of the aircraft and flew sideways into the vacuum into the vast universe. "Sir, it turns out you didn't make peace," the short merchant said, a little depressed at this moment. This guy was thrown aside by the rapidly turning aircraft, and his head hit the corner of the aircraft. He looked very miserable at the moment. Jia Yan doesn't have time to care about him so much, it's a critical moment now. Boom boom boom. Several rays of light passed through the bottom of the sky and flew into the air. Jia Yan looked at the direction they came from, directly operated the aircraft, and directly operated the aircraft to quickly evade towards a judged area ahead. The moment he dodged, Jia Yan suddenly felt a sense of crisis emerge from his keen sense. In the moment of life and death battle, his instinct as a strong man showed his advantage. Jia Yan felt the light coming from the attack. There was one at the very back, and the direction it shot was exactly the area that Jia Yan wanted to avoid. At this critical moment, Jia Yan quickly operated the aircraft and fled in another direction. Fortunately, in such a dangerous situation, the aircraft he operated still did not face any major crisis. Bo. There was a faint sound of something being breached in front of the aircraft. The Anglibi flew out of the Kufei group's settlement area unknowingly. What it broke through before was the surface of a simulated ecosystem that Jia Yan didn't quite understand the principle of. The breakthrough of this area means that Jia Yan is completely out of the opponent's control area, but it also means that the opponent can attack him with all his strength. No one will care at this time. Jia Yan is just a novice operating an aircraft. A series of attack rays from behind continued to launch attacks towards the area where Jia Yan was, while the aircraft in front felt green and struggled to avoid these attacks. Not long after the Anglibius broke through, metal shadows spraying flames from the rear quickly broke through the defensive cover from the small settlement, and chased the aircraft in front without any backhand force. However, they are just simple small battleships, not extremely powerful medium-sized or even large battleships, and they even look no better than Sao's small battleships. The speed of the fleeing aircraft in front reached a level that these small warships could not reach almost instantly. Sure enough, their speed is too far behind me. In the aircraft in front, Jia Yan looked at the three small single-person battleships behind him, and suddenly felt relieved. He has always been very satisfied with the flight speed of the Anglibi, and now he has turned on the hidden launch mode of the Anglibi, and the speed has increased to a level that Jia Yan himself does not know how fast he is. Now he is naturally interested in its speed. Confidence in speed. The warships chasing behind obviously did not expect this result. At this time, they seemed to be jumping up and down, and continued to emit light towards the void where Jia Yan was. Bright lights keep shining in the vacuum. But the distance is already farther. At such a long distance, even Jia Yan can easily dodge these attacks, immediately minimizing the crisis. Finally, the distance between the two sides became farther and farther. From being able to see the other party's figure through the monitoring panel, to being able to see almost nothing at all. In the aircraft, Jia Yan finally exhaled a long breath. Although it was only a brief period of pursuit and escape, he felt that it was more strenuous than fighting with his physical body. This kind of technical work is something Kamana women can adapt to. It's impossible for me to adapt to my style. Jia Yan smiled bitterly and made a judgment on his flying ability. Normally it's fine, but at the critical moment of the battle, I made several mistakes just now. Jia Yan turned around and saw that the merchant, who was already in a daze due to the collision during the previous chase, was groaning softly and groaning on the floor. Okay, come here, I didn't save you in vain. Now I want you to tell me about the distribution of forces in this area, as well as the names of well-known powerful people, their strength, etc. I hope you don't have any reservations. Jia Yan said calmly. When the merchant monster heard these words, his eyes suddenly froze. He seemed to have thought of something. But within a moment, the light in his eyes quickly dimmed. As a shrewd businessman, he knew that some things could be guessed, and some things were better left a little confused. He didn't think much and stepped forward quickly. Sir, what do you want to ask? I will definitely tell you everything you know. Time passed slowly, and the story about how a starry sky level dared to go to the Kyufi group to find trouble, and then Ha successfully escaped, was quickly revealed in this starry sky. No one knows what the strength of this strong man is, but there are rumors that this strong man had a draw with a powerful speed-inclined starry sky class member of Kyufi group. But people only knew about the tie. The real truth, under the control of Kyufi group's denial, became unknown to people. Under this kind of publicity, this starry sky level powerhouse seems to be a flying creature. He has gained a bit of fame in this starry sky, but it is far from being famous. After all, he is just following a Kyufi. It was just a draw among the members of the group, there was nothing shocking at all. Only the strong men in Kyufi group truly know that this powerful being may be a very difficult person to mess with. Have the investigation results been released regarding this powerful man? In the Kyufi group, several powerful Zinkong level people gathered together and held a discussion about the Zinkong level person with whom they had problems before. But it seems that they don't have much information about this strong man. I saw the short but extremely fast turtle shell strongman shaking his head helplessly. No, this powerful man seems to have emerged from the ground. There seems to be no news about him in this starry sky. It is impossible for such a powerful man to appear rashly. He was extremely strange. It's nothing. When we heard that there was a chaos stone here, didn't we come here suddenly like this? This guy might be an outsider who wanted to interfere because of the chaos stone. The huge starry sky class who rushed to the aid of the turtle shell creature before expressed his opinion. Several other star levels also agreed with his point of view. Afterwards, these beings made some speculations and disputes about Jia Yan's appearance, but the things they said were relatively general. After all, they can't keep chasing such a being into the starry sky, right? What's more, there wasn't actually much of a fight between this strong man and them, at least not to the extent that their entire Kyufi regiment would launch a pursuit for him. Okay, this strong man's matter is just a trivial matter. As long as he doesn't provoke us, let him go, right? Next, let's talk about the Chaos Stone collection quota in our hands. The huge existence, after summarizing some of the approaches to Jia Yan, we directly let go of his issues. The words that followed seemed to be very confidential, and the words spoken by these powerful men gradually became quieter. And at the same moment, somewhere in the starry sky, Chaos Stone collection quota. Jia Yan's strange words sounded dull. Yes, sir, this Chaos Stone is also a very precious thing in this area, so the powerful adults in our area have gradually formed a tacit understanding, that is, the quota for collecting Chaos Stones. The merchant monster in front of you, Jia Yan, made his own voice. The two are still in the aircraft, but now the aircraft is extremely far away from the Kyufi group. Even if the other party wants to hunt them down, it will not be so easy to find them. Jia Yan could imagine that the other party would not go to great lengths to search for him just for the sake of a little holiday. What's more, even if he was found, they would be sure to kill Jia Yan. It is precisely because of these starry sky level thoughts that Jia Yan does not have much worry about the strong men of the Kyufi group. What is this collection quota all about? Are the top 10 strong men you mentioned before also willing to let other strong men share their collection quotas? Jia Yan asked strangely. The top 10 powerful people in his mouth were the few truly powerful people in this desolate galaxy that the short merchant told him in the past. However, what surprised Jia Yan was that there was also one among the powerful heavenly dragons ranked on the list. These 10 strong men are almost invincible in this starry sky. Their strength is far beyond that of other strong men. In previous disputes, they have proved their strength with countless battles. So much so that he was listed among the top 10 strong men by other strong men. Of course the top 10 experts agree, and they don't dare to disagree. Just when Jia Yan was wondering why the top 10 men were so powerful and willing to give up the Chaos Stone, the short merchant said something strange to Jia Yan. Don't they dare to disagree? Well, didn't you say before that they are all extremely terrifying starry sky level, and even each one of them is the pinnacle of the starry sky level? Under such circumstances, who else can put pressure on them? Could it be? As if he thought of something, Jia Yan's tone suddenly became a little horrified. The short merchant knew what Jia Yan was thinking. He looked at this powerful man who was also a starry sky level, and nodded with a somewhat nervous expression. That's right, it's a star. Stellar. Hearing these 3 words, even Jia Yan, who is not afraid of heaven and earth, almost wants to carry a big mosquito with the 10 strong men in this starry sky. His heart can't help but shrink at this time, and his breathing almost freezes. He had known about the star level before. The level of the starry sky beast was also in the immortal arm. Those powerful people had only heard rumors but had not seen it with their own eyes for many years. An existence of this level, even to Jia Yan's ears, sounds as terrifying as a god. And now, he actually heard the exact star level news. But I don't know the specific things. I just heard that a few decades ago, this starry sky was fought to the death. 2 of the top starry sky level experts died. At that time, a powerful and incompetent person was killed. A star-level powerhouse has arrived here. He didn't care about the Chaos Stone at all, he just said a word. The stellar level said, every local starry sky level powerhouse is a precious resource. Their lives should not be wasted here in this Chaos Stone. After that, the stellar level formulated a plan about according to the rules of the Chaos Stone, even the top 10 powerful men cannot interfere, otherwise it will be against the face of this powerful existence. What about this stellar powerhouse? Is he still sitting here? Jia Yan asked with some surprise. You know, the merchant said that what the other party said was, every local starry sky level powerhouse is a precious resource. It is obvious that the Yingxian arm is hundreds of thousands of miles away from this starry sky. He is not among them, which means that Jia Yan is no longer a resource in the eyes of the other party. If he was still here, Jia Yan would definitely not say anything about the Chaos Stone or another mutation. In front of a star, Jia Yan would definitely run away as far as he could. Fortunately, when the merchant saw that Jia Yan was a little frightened, he immediately smiled and said, how is it possible? How could such a great existence stay in such a desolate place like ours? He just stayed here for a while, and then disappeared. The strong men after the battle also recommended the top 10 strong men. As the roughly strongest rulers here, don't look at the fact that this area is still extremely chaotic and battles are happening all the time. But in fact, the battles here are all if it is within the controllable range. As long as it exceeds the limit, 10 powerful people will definitely come out to deal with it. So, the Chaos Stone is their concession to the other powerful men, Jia Yan continued to ask curiously. That's not a rule set by them, but by that great star-level being. According to the rules of the star-level powerhouse, every once in a while, it's time to collect Chaos Stones. At that time, some quotas will be released. In addition to the top 10 powerful forces, other forces can compete for these quotas. However, the number that can be collected for each quota is not large. Just like the Qifei group settlement where I was before, they had the collection quota is only 10 Chaos Stones. Quota. Jia Yan pondered a little. He did hear some good news. He didn't really mutate just by relying on the extremely fast Chaos Stone, but at least this was a perfect opportunity to get close to the Chaos Stone. If he got close, there would always be a way to get more of it. It's better than not having any way to get close, right? After all, Jia Yan knew that in the area where the Chaos Stone was located, it could be said that there were 3 layers inside and 3 outside. Almost the entire interstellar material where the Chaos Stone was produced was wrapped in tight defenses. After that, Jia Yan continued to ask about the collection quota and about the powerful people in this starry sky. A few days later, in a relatively prosperous settlement, an aircraft quietly arrived. But the aircraft didn't stop much. Instead, he got up and left shortly after landing. The being in the aircraft did not even get off the aircraft, but left a short merchant behind and left. Only the short businessman who still had a large amount of money looked at the departing aircraft and bowed deeply. In the deep universe, there is almost no life here, only endless darkness. What the merchant said to me was still very useful. At least I learned more about this area. There was a faint light in Jia Yanfu's eyes. He was sitting in the driver's seat of the aircraft, still thinking about something in his heart. In the past few days, he had consulted the little merchant for advice, which made him understand a lot more about some affairs in the starry sky. Of course, all understanding is for one goal, to obtain the Chaos Stone he needs for his upcoming mutation. After thorough research, Jia Yan knew that this so-called Chaos Stone was definitely something that could cause him to mutate again. And if you want to get close to it, besides attacking by force, the only way is to obtain the collection quota. It is impossible to attack by force. To me, the strong men here are all undefeatable beings. Even Master Seeing Wrong from Tianlong Star is just a top-notch player here, and he is simply not as good as the top 10 strong ones. I don't even have the slightest confidence to defeat Master Seeing Wrong, let alone the top 10 powerful men. Jia Yan knew that if he attacked forcefully, he would just die. But this road doesn't work. The only way is to take another road, which is to get a collection quota. Otherwise, Jia Yan would not know how he could approach the Chaos Stone mining area. But even if it is possible to collect quotas, it is not that easy. After all, I have no power of my own in this starry sky, and I don't have any acquaintances. The collection will start in 2 months, then what should we do? That's right, you can do that. Suddenly, Jia Yanfu's eyes lit up. Time continues to pass quickly. In the entire desolate starry sky, the Chaos Stone collection every few years is no less than a huge festival. In this starry sky, there is nothing more important than the collection conference. The edge areas of the desolate galaxy have even been affected. There are many holidays for this gathering conference, the most popular of which is the live broadcast of the battle between the strong. In this gathering conference, all the forces with gathering quotas are not weak. However, in this starry sky, there are too many powerful forces, and some forces, even if they are not strong here, are in other areas not far away, such as the Northern Star Territory. They have considerable power, so their role cannot be ignored. Even the top 10 powerful ones must be treated with caution. Therefore, among those powerful forces, those with quotas cannot relax, because there is still another level waiting for them when the gathering conference begins. That is the collection quota challenge. I lost a lot of subscriptions, which seriously affected my code, so I almost didn't update it until after 12 o'clock. I hope everyone can come to Cheeteon.com and subscribe to the official version. Bulletin you really seems to have written about Giant Mosquito all the time. Thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 564. Angel Camp is a small force from the Northern Star Territory. This force's base camp in the Northern Star Territory is not a powerful force, so it does not have many advantages in this desolate galaxy. Moreover, because of its weak personnel, they do not have many collection quotas allocated to them. The Angel Camp is located on the outskirts of the center of the desolate star field. It is also the place where most of the weak forces want to get involved in the Chaos Stone. This place is more chaotic than the central point. Fighting occurs every day, and organizations are destroyed every once in a while. Every once in a while, new organizations come here to establish a stronghold. It can be said to be a place that almost no one manages. We successfully obtained 10 collection quotas this time, but this quota is not a good thing. Our Angel Camp's strength in this desolate galaxy is too weak. There are only 4 starry sky levels, which is at best a medium strength. This kind of strength is not expected. It's too difficult to keep a spot in the competition. In the Angel Camp, a powerful being with 4 eyes complained depressedly to the other 2 beings. The other 2 beings were also extremely depressed. They knew that this year their Angel Camp might give up their gathering quota again, warm it in their hands, and hand it over to others. The Chaos Stone collection quota in the desolate galaxy adopts an initial allocation system. Under this system, each force has its turn to get the collection quota, but next they will face challenges from those powerful forces. If they cannot win, then their quota will also be taken. Of course, this system will not be that simple. There are also limits on the number of challenges for the challenger force, etc., and there are also some rules that give the initial owner an advantage. But in the final analysis, if the force is too weak, then the collection quota will be lost. It's just a matter of minutes. In fact, the Angel Camp is not extremely weak. After all, a force with 4 starry sky levels cannot be called weak, right? But in fact, it is very rare for a force with 4 early stage powerhouses in the starry sky to retain its place in previous challenges. Only the middle level forces with excellent luck can make it to the end. That's why these people in the Angel Camp feel extremely uneasy here. Otherwise, we will sell the quota this time. We will see if the headquarters will send a midterm star from the headquarters next time. It is possible to keep the quota by then. As soon as the 4-eyed monster finished lamenting, there was a powerful starry sky level below who took over the words. The speaker was a monster that looked like a giant snake. There was a strange light in his eyes, and a cold light shot out from time to time. He didn't look like someone who was easy to mess with. But it was such a powerful being who looked at it, and at this time he actually said that he was selling his quota as if he was admitting defeat. Just when the 4-eyed monster was startled and was about to say something, outside the area where they were discussing, a being who looked like a peak at the heaven level knocked on the door from the outside world. "Come in, what's going on? Didn't we say that there will be nothing important during the return trip, so don't disturb us?" Even though these starry sky level ones are discussing issues where their own strength is not strong enough, they are still very majestic in front of the generally weak existences of this force. At this time, the 4-eyed monster let out a slightly angry roar, causing the body of the heaven-level peak monster to tremble. "Sir, I don't dare to interrupt the discussion of several adults, but a starry sky-level existence came outside. I'm afraid it's some distinguished guests from here, so I came and knocked on the door. Please forgive me." This heaven-level peak monster quickly stated his purpose. In fact, he was actually muttering in his heart, "I see you guys are debating every day, 4 hours at a time, but nothing comes out of the deliberation. You are still afraid of being disturbed. You have the ability to discuss a charter." However, he never dared to say this. Spoken. Oh. A starry sky-level existence. "Can you recognize who it is?" the 4-eyed monster above asked strangely. "I don't know, this adult is very unfamiliar. He doesn't seem to exist in this starry sky," the top-level monster replied. "Could it be that, the headquarters had foresight and knew that we were lacking strong men here, so they sent one over?" The 4-eyed monster was startled. "Let's go and see which strong man is going." They all stood up and headed towards the outside world. And in an area outside the Angel Camp, a tall figure stood quietly, looking at everything in front of him. This being is naturally Jia Yan. At this time, he was standing in the welcome square of Angel Camp, which was probably the largest area in this area. It is a full 5 kilometers long and wide, which can be considered an open place. And here is a small interstellar space of more than 70 kilometers in size. There are houses everywhere. It is already very rare to have this area. It seems that what the outside world says, that this area of Angel Camp is prosperous but lacks combat power, is not groundless. Jia Yan looked at everything around him and felt that the situation here was quite similar to what he had heard about. That's right, Jia Yan deliberately found the location of this small force for his current plan. It's not a strong place, but it's not too weak either. There's a high chance that I'll get involved. Jia Yan's purpose is simple, that is, he has taken aim. In this barren galaxy, this is the term foreign aid for the quota challenge. Foreign aid, this is also an eye-catching thing in the Chaos Stone challenge in the Desolate Star territory. Just like sports such as football and basketball on Earth, foreign aid can also be used in the quota challenge here, and this is also the most variable situation in the entire challenge. After all, most of the forces know each other's strengths. As a result, with the addition of foreign aid, there are many more variables. Those forces that are confident have to brace themselves to face every opponent. This is also a very effective way to hone the combat effectiveness between forces. While Jia Yan continued to look at the territory of the Angel Camp, several powerful figures appeared not far away. But they all looked at Jia Yan's unfamiliar appearance. They all looked at each other and felt confused. Do you know each other? The four-eyed monster asked, looking at the two starry sky-level monsters beside him. I don't know, they both said in unison. I don't know him either, so it seems like this is a strong man with whom we have no friendship. Let's go over and see what his purpose is, the four-eyed monster said strangely. Then they continued flying towards the big mosquito. Jia Yan also discovered the opponent's figure early and turned around. Now those monsters have a better judgment on their appearance. After all, the first impression between strong people is based on whether they are strong or not, and they are no exception. Not long after, these 3-star-level monsters arrived in front of Jia Yan. This was Jia Yan's first experience facing 3-starry sky-level creatures at such a close distance at the same time. The huge momentum of the opponent's 3 creatures condensed together and came fiercely. Jia Yan felt that the sense of crisis had suddenly increased a lot, almost giving him an idea of preparing for battle. However, he still controlled himself not to make any movements, and at this time, he was quietly watching the coming starry sky-level creatures. The distance between the two is even less than 100 meters. Hello, respected powerful man, why do you want to come to our angel camp? The four-eyed monster made a voice. His voice was neither humble nor arrogant, and there was no need for them to be respectful to Jia Yan, a being of the same level as them. I came to you and recommended myself, Jia Yan said slowly after calming down a little in his heart. Self-recommendation. The four-eyed monster was stunned. Recommend yourself? Could it be that you want to reach a foreign aid agreement with us? The four-eyed monster was stunned. He exchanged looks with the other 2 starry sky-level colleagues and could hardly believe his ears. Yes, I want to form a foreign aid agreement with your angel camp, but I don't know if your angel camp will want me, an unknown star-level powerhouse Jia Yan said lightly. I have to test you. Whether you want it or not depends on your strength. Madly suppressing his heart, he immediately agreed to the starry sky-level creature's request for foreign aid. The four-eyed monster pretended to say something. Test argument. Brother, you're crazy. It's hard to find a foreign aid, and he's a star-level player. What kind of test are you talking about? He'll be gone by then. It's up to you to find him. The 2 starry sky-level monsters on the other side suddenly became anxious when they saw the four-eyed monster saying that they wanted to test the starry sky-level in front of them. They almost wanted to replace the four-eyed monster and directly agreed. Because they know that this kind of thing does not happen, but it happens too rarely among the small forces that have obtained collection quotas. Generally speaking, strong men who want to serve as foreign aid are all heaven level. This kind of role that is just a soy sauce is still being snatched by many small forces as backup. As for the Starry Sky class, even though there are already many Starry Sky class in this Starry Sky, most of them have their own forces, and even those who want to go out to make some extra money, they all go to those medium and large forces. If they can fancy a small, there are almost no Starry Sky level foreign aids for the forces. Because foreign aid is almost based on the number of battles and the higher the funds to help customers reach the later stages, ordinary small forces cannot go as far as they could. How can such foreign aid participate in small forces? As for the Angel Camp, it's not that they don't want to hire foreign aid, but no foreign aid is willing to come even if they offer a price. With such a good thing delivered to your door, the four-eyed monster actually said what kind of test it was. The other two Starry Sky classes almost wanted to step forward and open the brainless leader's head to see if there was any rust inside. Okay, let's talk about your testing method. I hope I can satisfy you. Jia Yan was startled, and then nodded with some scorn. He was extremely strange. Didn't it mean that these small forces would accept the Starry Sky level and pass it without any certification, and they would even be eager for a Starry Sky level to help? Why do you need any more tests? But he didn't think that much. Since there was a test, he went on to say that with his strength, it was impossible to fail. The four-eyed monster also felt regretful at this time, almost causing a foreign aid to leave just like that. He just casually said that he wanted to test, but fortunately the other party did not leave directly. Then what you have to do is fight our Starry Sky level member for 30 rounds. He looked at one of the Starry Sky level subordinates behind him, pointed at one of them, and said. Okay. Jia Yan nodded and then stepped forward. He knew that this 5-kilometer venue was enough for a small-scale battle between two Starry Sky classes. After all, this is not a real battle, just a test. The one named was a creature that looked smaller. Jia Yan could now roughly distinguish the gender of the creature. The monster looked petite, not because her race was thin, but because the monster itself was a female. Her appearance has strange scales. These scales are extremely hard and full of undercuts, which must be a means of attack. When Jia Yan saw the other party coming out, his mind froze slightly. When facing a Starry Sky class, never underestimate the opponent, otherwise you will be seeking death. At this time, Jia Yan didn't have too many thoughts of looking down upon this Starry Sky level powerhouse who might be a woman. But he didn't take the other party too seriously. From his life and experiences in this Starry Sky, Jia Yan knew roughly where his strength was. That is, he cannot fight against an extremely powerful top player, but even so, he is still confident against an intermediate Starry Sky level expert. As for the strong men from the Angel Camp on the opposite side, most of them are entry-level existences. To put it mildly, such existences may not even be able to open Jia Yan's current defense. You are a lady, you attack first. Jia Yan stood there and spoke calmly. Looking down on me? Look at the trick. The scaly monster felt suffocated for a while, then without saying anything else, it slammed its leg onto the ground and attacked where Jia Yan was. The opponent is about 5 meters tall and 7 to 8 meters long, and is at least twice smaller than Jia Yan. Judging from the strength of her attacks, she is also a speed type. Jia Yan has only fought against a speedy Starry Sky class before, and he is now the best at dealing with this speedy opponent. So the light in his eyes flashed slightly. After that, he actually didn't have the slightest idea of evading, and just stood there, waiting for the opponent's attack. The form of the scaly monster attacking was not using its own body as an attack method, but a hammer-like weapon as an attack weapon. She took the hammer and hit Jia Yan hard. Moreover, the attack was accompanied by thunder and lightning, and there was a faint sound of being cracked in the surrounding air. Well done. Jia Yan couldn't help but applaud the power of this move, but he was not too moved. He raised his right front foot slightly and faced the attacking hammer. The attack speed of the scaly monster was okay, but due to her size, it was impossible to cause much damage to Jia Yan's body. This monster is going to be in trouble. Just as Jia Yan did this, a disappointed expression flashed in the eyes of the four-eyed monster over there. There is also a difference in strength between the Starry Sky level and the Starry Sky level, but no one who reaches the Starry Sky level will be simple. If another Starry Sky class is stupid enough to underestimate the opponent because he thinks the opponent is too small, then he either has little combat experience or is too stupid. No matter which one, this kind of Starry Sky level combat ability is not worth looking forward to. The four-eyed monster, which was originally extremely happy because a Starry Sky level man came to recommend himself, was slightly less interested at this time. That's right, if he wasn't a Starry level person with no experience, why would he apply for a job with them? It sounds like a long time, but the time that passed was only a very short time. Just when these thoughts flashed through the four-eyed monster, the hammer came into contact with the front legs of the oncoming giant mosquito. Crack, crack, crack. At the first moment of contact, Jia Yan only felt a terrifying electric light in his body, spreading like crazy through the hammer contact surface and spreading towards his body. It turns out to be electrically charged. No, this should be because the opponent itself has the ability to discharge electricity. Jia Yan was slightly frightened in his heart. It is true that he still has too little combat experience with the Starry Sky class, otherwise he would have been a little wary before the battle. That's right. Be sure to pay attention in the future. Jia Yan, who was a little surprised by the opponent's arc ability, calmed down the next moment. Because he discovered that his defense power was also extremely terrifying against this powerful arc. Bang! The contact between the two is instantaneous. Hey, the scaly monster was shocked when he saw the opponent in front of him, who seemed to have nothing unusual. But she didn't pause and attacked again. Next, her specialty was suppressed, and she could no longer use her petite body to defeat the big mosquito. Looking at the scaly monster in front of her, it kept running back and forth. The speed was indeed so fast that even Jia Yan was slightly surprised, but that was all. The gap between Jia Yan and her was too big, and she simply allowed the child to attack her. Like adults. Okay, 30 moves have passed, stop. The four-eyed monster suddenly called out. The two were separated at the first touch, and the scaly monster's body rose and fell, vaguely like a human on earth panting, and it seemed that he was exhausted. However, she looked at Jia Yan in front of her and her eyes were suddenly stunned, and she even couldn't believe it. Because of the previous battle, she knew that there was a gap in strength between herself and her opponent. Even from the beginning to the end, the flying monster only used its two front legs to resist her attack. But she didn't expect that when she stopped and took a look, she realized that it was much more than that. Under what she thought was a wild bombing attack, this flying Starry Sky level creature didn't even move its feet at all. She even looked out of breath, but the other party looked completely unfazed. The gap between this is simply incredible. The scaly monster had a look of despair in its eyes. She was feeling self-doubt about her own strength. Thank you everyone for subscribing. Although the results are not very good, Bayou is still persevering. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 565. Wonderful. It's really wonderful. When the fight between Jia Yan and the scaly monster ended, the four-eyed monster on one side stepped forward with a loud shout. He was really satisfied with the strength of Jia Yan, the big mosquito. Although there was no real competition. But a glimpse of the leopard revealed that this kind of strength already made him feel like he had found a treasure. You are extremely powerful and can join my foreign aid camp with Angel Camp, the four-eyed monster said to Jin Yan with great satisfaction. Thank you. I also appreciate the lady's mercy, Jia Yan responded lightly to the four-eyed monster, and then did not forget to say thank you to the sulking scale monster on the side. He was sincere. After all, the mechanisms on the opponent's scales were not used. Although Jia Yan used them unconsciously, it would only cause some harm to him. Humph, the scale monster snorted softly, turning its head and refusing to respond. The two parties did not break up on bad terms because of this trivial matter. Under the kind invitation of the four-eyed monster, Jia Yan joined the foreign aid team of the Angel Camp and was arranged to be the core member of the foreign aid team upon entering. Not long after, he arrived at the gathering place for the foreign aid team members. This is also where he will stay in the future. Sir, this is the accommodation arranged for you. Because it is a bit hasty, the conditions are not very good. Please come and see me. A heaven-level monster who led Jia Yan to a remote area kept apologizing to Jia Yan. It's okay, I came too suddenly. It's none of your business, Jia Yan said lightly. It turned out that what was in front of them was just a small building. Maybe this building was not too small on Earth. But for such a huge body as the big mosquito, it looks petty. But Jia Yan has never suffered anything, so this is a trivial matter. The heaven-level expert led Jia Yan inside. His body was so huge that he could hardly pass. Fortunately, after squeezing so hard that the door was almost broken, I was able to barely get in. I heard that a new guy will be coming soon. Do you know what this guy's strength is? Just after entering and taking a few steps, there was a sound. You're a newbie, he's not just here to make a living. It's better if this guy is more honest. If he's not honest, we can give him some good things to eat. You know, our foreign aid has to conduct combat training every day. Several voices of conversation came from inside. Hearing the top-level monster leading Jia Yan, he couldn't help but feel cold. He looked at Jia Yan, but unfortunately he couldn't tell whether he was angry or not on Big Mosquito's expressionless face. He quickly shouted loudly at this moment. You guys come here and meet the new adults. Sir? Could it be the new guy? Let's go out. If this guy is dishonest, give him something to eat. An arrogant voice inside said directly without any fear of being heard by outsiders. Then there were footsteps, coming from inside and walking towards the door. But another voice sounded strangely. That's what the steward said, but sir, please don't be impulsive. Don't you, Lord Steward, respect everyone? If you care about him so much, you can't be at the starry sky level. The arrogant voice from before was still ringing with arrogance. Click. When the inner door opened, several voices and gestures appeared in front of Jia Yan and the two. This. There is a monster that looks like a monkey, and is almost 100 meters tall. From his words, it can be analyzed that he was the one who said he wanted to organize the newcomers' comments. But when the door opened, the guy's eyes widened when he saw the terrifying body of the big mosquito for the first time. Several other powerful men around the heaven level also looked at Jia Yan's terrifying figure in horror at this time. It's okay to be huge. After all, some races are also huge, but their strength is not too strong. But the terrifying aura of the giant mosquito truly told these heaven-level monsters that he was not just a heaven-level man, but a true starry sky-level powerhouse. The monkey-like monster was even more horrified. He looked around and saw that, except for the steward, this powerful starry sky class was the only one present. So, the so-called newcomer is this starry sky class existence. He felt like he was going to be unlucky. Okay, Tufan, you offended Mr. Sing Kong. Later, you will practice 5,000 attacks by yourself. If you don't finish the practice in 3 days, then 3 more days will be added. If you still can't finish the practice, I have the right to kick you out of the foreign aid team. Understood. Are you ready? The steward who let Jia Yan over shouted coldly. At the same time, this guy kept gesturing at the monkey monster. Yes. I'll do it right away. Thank you for your understanding. The monkey monster nodded quickly as if he was being pardoned, and quickly left to a certain area behind for fear of what Jia Yan would say. Little does this guy know that this is the housekeeper secretly helping him. Without saying a word, this monkey monster, who seemed to be the king of foreign aid, was defeated. But Jia Yan didn't care at all. As these monsters showed, the gap between the starry sky level and the heaven level was really too big. To Jia Yan, this was just like an ant-like existence. The housekeeper began to introduce several other heaven-level foreign players, and Jia Yan did not show any impatient expression along the way. But there was no feeling of concern. After the introduction, the housekeeper took Jia Yan towards the place where he was arranged to live. But now, the monsters who had just exchanged greetings with Jia Yan have finally come to their senses. Everyone looked at the leaving huge figure in disbelief. I'm not dreaming, am I? Angel Camp actually invited starry sky level foreign aid? How is that possible? These heaven level beings, even now, still couldn't believe how the Angel Camp could hire a star level being as their foreign aid. Not only them, but also the starry sky level executives of the Angel Camp. They did not arrange for Jia Yan to live in a better place for safety reasons, because the appearance of this starry sky level was too weird. In fact, Jia Yan, as a former lord of Tianlong Star, had done something to kill the descendants of Tianlong strong men. In fact, the impact was still huge. Now after such a long time of fermentation, the news has finally spread here. It turned out to be a former lord of Tianlong Star, but it seems that no one knows the previous news about this guy. On Tianlong Star, they only know that he missed the route during the space transfer and came here. This guy is very suspicious. But it is precisely because he is suspicious that he can be used by us. Anyway, he is only fighting for us. He is very strong. In my previous battle with him, I did not even force him to use his full strength, so we can use his, just don't let him come into contact with the core things. In the Angel Camp, the four-eyed monster had just told Jia Yan's past, and the scaly monster immediately told his own opinion. She had almost no backhand against Jia Yan, a strong man with scales. Even if he didn't want to agree, he could only say the extremely powerful words of this strong man. After all, this was an indisputable fact. Several strong men from the Angel Camp discussed it and didn't say anything else after that. After all, for the Starry Sky class, who has no past? Killing the descendant of a strong Tianlong just shows that this strong man is not trustworthy as a subordinate, as long as he is not allowed to become the real core. In the days of waiting, time passed quickly. In the so-called foreign aid building, Jia Yan mainly spends his time sorting out his energy. Although it has been half a year since he recovered his energy, the energy in his body now is actually recovering, rather than starting over in other ways. Once, in this case, Jin Yan will need a lot of time to organize and comprehend again. In 2 months, Jia Yan's current level has not improved much. He has only adjusted his body that was about to mutate to its peak, preparing for future mutations. Sir, 2 months are up, it's time for us to set off. When Jia Yan made a slight adjustment to his body line, a voice came. Jia Yan breathed out gently in his heart. He knew that 2 months would come in a blink of an eye. The next step is for him to have a real big adventure in this star field. The giant mosquito moved slowly and came to the door. Sir, they have gathered. I will take you there. The former housekeeper stood respectfully at the gate of Jia Yan's residence. When he saw his appearance, he hurriedly bent down and saluted. The conditions in this angel camp are not very good, but they are very respectful to Jia Yan, which is very satisfying. So in 2 months, Jia Yan had no greater dissatisfaction. Following the housekeeper to the outside world, The area of the angel camp was already so large. Within a few minutes, they reached the wide area where the two were fighting. Master Jia Yan, I haven't seen you for a long time. Please help me in the future. Unexpectedly, several Starry Sky class members from the angel camp had also arrived, and the four-eyed monster was extremely enthusiastic about Jia Yan's arrival. Jia Yan looked at the other party and saw that the scale monster and the other Starry Sky class looked at him slightly differently, with a slightly curious and more fearful look. As soon as his thoughts changed, Jia Yan thought of the reason. These guys must already know that I am Jia Yan from Tianlong Star, right? But it doesn't matter. There is no murderous intention in their eyes. They just need to be more careful in the future. Jia Yan's thoughts were spinning in his heart. But there was no change on the surface. The two parties exchanged pleasantries like old friends they hadn't seen for a long time. As for the existence in the angel camp, the enthusiasm for Jia Yan at this time is really not fake. Although they know that this strong man is a being who has a gap with the powerful forces, that is, the forces of the Tianlong people, but this strong man, this person is an existence that can kill the heir of a Starry Sky level heavenly dragon expert without recovering his Starry Sky level power. But now that he is completely at the Starry Sky level, his strength will only be stronger, not weaker. As for the grudge between Jia Yan and the powerful Tianlong, they will not care about it. Before that, the other party can win a few games for them, just a few games. Thinking about it, the powerful Tianlongs would not be angry with their angel camp just because they used Jia Yan as a foreign aid. This is what the people in the angel camp think. Jia Yan has also thought about this, but he has no other way. The only chance to obtain Chaos Stones recently is the collection quota. As for the crisis faced by the powerful Tianlong, it will not be as big as the crisis when he enters the collection area and plunders it, right? So take it one step at a time. Not long after, a huge flying battleship, accompanied by several equally large spaceships, took off and glided away into the vast universe. One day later, it was already difficult to see left and right in the starry sky. There was bright starry sky material everywhere and spaceships everywhere. However, these materials were not so conspicuous in the huge universe. Even in an extremely busy area, it feels like flying alone, surrounded by darkness. In an ordinary spaceship, the giant Mosquito's huge body looked at the dark space outside the ship's side, somewhat in a daze. What's wrong? Are you worried about your broken spaceship? Don't worry, no one wants your spaceship. A voice suddenly appeared behind Jia Yan. Jia Yan was speechless when he heard the voice that was obviously female. He turned around and saw that the person behind him was indeed the female monster that he had fought with before, the guy that Jia Yan had previously called the scale monster in his heart. I don't know if it was because of the loss of this woman's face in that battle. Ever since she boarded the spaceship yesterday, the scaly monster who was riding in the same spaceship with her has been constantly sarcastic towards Jia Yan. Did any of my eyes see that I was worried about the spaceship? I was just annoyed by someone, so I was hiding here, Jia Yan said calmly. You. Of course the scale monster knew who Jia Yan was referring to. At this time, he snorted coldly and said, I know that you are the existence of Tianlong Star who killed the strong Tianlong. This time, I came here just to remind you. You, just be careful of the celestial dragons in the future. Don't worry, I won't come looking for you in the future. Goodbye. After saying this, the scaly monster seemed to have been greatly stimulated, and angrily returned to the original path. Jia Yan is inexplicable. But what he didn't know clearly was that there was a pink monster beside the scaly monster. This monster was the last one Jia Yan saw, the last of the 4-star level experts in the angel camp, and at the same time, she was a female. At this time, when she saw the angry look of the scale monster, she couldn't help but step forward to comfort him. I just said, this kind of guy looks like the kind of person who only knows how to become strong. It's impossible to develop anything with him. Just give up. I understand, thank you sister. The scale monster finally felt a little better after listening to the pink monster's words. Oh, I don't know how this guy got such long hair. Such a beautiful sister is not tempted. What beautiful scales. The pink monster lovingly stroked the scales of the scale monster. It would have been fine if I didn't say this, but the scaly monster became even more angry when I did. Eyes full of anger. But Jia Yan didn't know about the conversation between them. If he knew, he would definitely be shocked by their aesthetics. Those scales standing upside down. Is this beautiful? Even now, Jia Yan's aesthetics are still that of an earthling. If a giantess like Kama were to be called upon to say she was beautiful, he would admit it. Ahem, maybe this is one of the reasons why Jia Yan subconsciously kept the other party to work. Eye candy. But this scaly monster? He didn't feel the other person's intentions. If he did, he would definitely run as far as he could, otherwise he would scare himself to death. Fortunately, things did not develop like a Korean drama like Beast Love. Not long after, the venue for the competition for collecting quotas arrived. This time it is held by the Dayton clan, who successfully defeated several competitors 20 years ago and finally won the right to host the event. The Dayton clan is a large and medium-sized ethnic group. It is somewhat famous in this desolate galaxy. In the competition for hosting rights 20 years ago, the Dayton clan won the competition for collection quotas with unprecedented momentum. The right to host the conference can be said to have once again made a small appearance in the starry sky. Now in the entire galaxy, most life forms have their eyes set on the Great Tan clan. Welcome to the Great Tan clan, the beautiful Great Tan, and the beautiful city. This is the venue for the 21st Chaos Stone Collection Quota Conference. Everyone is welcome to visit. The Angel Camp's fleet was mixed in with countless spaceships, and slowly entered the large city where the Dayton tribe was located. This residential area is said to be a city under the stars, but coming from a barren and backward place like Jiayan, it can be called a planet. After all, it is possible for a star with a diameter of more than 200 kilometers and such a huge starry sky material to be mistaken for a planet by ordinary Earthlings. But such a huge star cannot be called a planet here. Compared with most starry sky settlements and starry sky cities that Jia Yan has seen, this place is not only huge, and the whole atmosphere is completely different. There are interstellar creatures coming and going everywhere. It is probably not because of the gathering quota meeting that it became popular here, but it has been so popular before. Hello everyone, I am the leader of your Angel Camp warriors. Please follow me. I will take you to have a taste of the Dayton tribe, and then take you to the settlement. Is not equal to meow is not equal to buy is not equal to ge is not equal to. A being that looked like an elf was flapping its wings. Arriving in front of the members of the Angel Camp who had just gotten off the spacecraft. Okay, sorry to trouble you. The four-eyed monster didn't care that the opponent was just an ordinary monster below the Earth level, and just nodded to it very politely. Jia Yan followed several starry sky levelers and walked forward. But just when they arrived at the outer edge of the spacecraft parking port and were about to board the huge arranged car body. Jia Yan, accept your fate. Jia Yan suddenly felt a terrifying wave of power coming from behind him. Thank you all for your genuine subscription. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 566. Huh. Jia Yan was startled. He had never thought that in this bustling place, someone would actually dare to attack him. You know, this is the most grand event in the entire desolate galaxy. The security here is extremely strong. To launch an attack here is almost impossible. A rebellious terrorist. Although I felt momentarily absent-minded in my heart. But Jia Yan's fighting instinct has not been lost at all. In an instant, his body turned in the direction of the incoming person, and at the same time, One of his front legs directly collided with the incoming person's attack weapon. Puff! There was a faint sound in the sky and the earth. Some weak beings around him covered their ears one by one. Jia Yan only felt a terrible force coming through the front foot and the opponent's contact surface, and a fierce attack came. The power was extremely terrifying. The moment Jia Yan came into contact, he had the illusion that he was about to retreat in response. When Jia Yan was surprised and faced the counter-attack force, a fiery red shadow in front of his eyes suddenly enlightened him. So that's it, it's him. Jia Yan looked at the other person's body and immediately understood who it was and why the other person suddenly attacked him. This guy was gnashing his teeth at this moment, looking at Jia Yan with an extremely crazy blood-red look in his eyes. Not only that, even his body was extremely red. This blood-red color is familiar to Jia Yan, because he has personally fought and killed an enemy with such a body before. That's right. He is the descendant of that powerful heavenly dragon. And now that this being is very similar to the dead heavenly dragon, his identity is easy to guess. It was one of the real heavenly dragon strongmen of Tianlong Star, and the father of the heavenly dragon strongman who was killed by Jia Yan, the heavenly dragon strongman, Lord Xing Chen. Boy, die. After Xing Chen punched out, the tail behind him, which represented the identity of the powerful Tianlong, also swept at a very fast speed and hit Jia Yan hard. My son was killed by me. Now this guy doesn't care whether he is from the Great Tan clan or not. He clearly wants me dead. Jia Yan smiled from the bottom of his heart. He didn't hold back at all and launched a counter-attack towards the opponent. Boom! There seemed to be a huge thunder roaring in the sky. On the contact surface between the two, a terrifying shockwave suddenly appeared. Ah! Some of the weak visiting races on one side screamed and flew backwards to one side. How could they have imagined that in this regular conference, there would be two guys who ignored the rules and started fighting here? So immediately there were casualties. Jia Yan didn't care so much. After all, the opponent attacked him first. He had a point wherever he said it. He couldn't just surrender at this moment just because there were rules against fighting, right? Stop. You two, stop it. Just as the two continued to fight, destroying a porthouse and almost causing huge damage, 3 or 4 starry sky-level powerhouses suddenly rushed out of the port, and these powerhouses were all wearing heavy armor. Looking at it was not the weak Xing Kong class. At this time, he rushed towards the direction where Jia Yan and Lord Xing Chen were fighting. Boom! Jia Yan once again exchanged blows with the opponent, and then used the force of the shock to retreat backward. Okay, if you really want to die, just attack us. At this moment, Jia Yan suddenly sent a message with the power of brainwaves towards the stars. The star was stunned for a moment, and then looked around, only to realize that the powerful men who came to attack quickly were all emitting extremely terrifying fluctuations. One of them could even dominate this area. The starry sky-level mid-level powerhouse. He was silent. Damn it, our Dayton clan finally held a quota meeting, and you actually dare to sabotage it. The person who seemed to be an intermediate starry sky level was sending out terrifying energy ripples at this moment. This was the first time for Jia Yan to see the middle level starry sky level. Under such terrifying energy ripples, his figure was almost shocked. It felt like Zongshu had no backhand ability at all. If you don't stop, I have the right to treat you as terrorists and kill you on the spot. The existence of the starry sky leader looked at Jia Yan and Lord Xing Chen, the strong man of the dragon, with anger at this time. The Great Tan clan has been preparing for decades to make a splash in this gathering quota meeting and to have a perfect quota meeting. Unexpectedly, there would be trouble just at the beginning. If the other party were not two starry sky level people, they would have been killed long ago. Sir, you don't care about our business. This Tianlong strongman took action first. You can check the surveillance on the other side. The mountain-eyed monster of the angel camp who had just recovered from a series of incidents interjected at this time. Talk. This guy wanted to break up the fight before, but when he saw the fluctuations in the fighting, he shrugged. Fortunately, at this time, as the leader of the angel camp, he still has some say. Let me see. When the starry sky level being arrived, neither Jia Yan nor the other party's Lord Xing Chen made any move at this time. Although Xing Chen had a strong desire to kill Jia Yan, facing a starry sky level at the mid-level, even if he uses some means and the strong fighting power of the Tianlong expert, he cannot be afraid, but this is where the Great Tan clan is, and if he continues to fight, he will not be able to survive. After watching the surveillance video here, the expressions on Jia Yan and Master Xing Chen's faces changed when he saw the presence of the Xing Kong Sr. After all, the momentum created by the battle between these two guys is really extraordinary. Even if he fights these two guys in person, it will not be a simple matter. He paused solemnly. But he will still say what needs to be said. After my inspection, I found that this gentleman did not do anything wrong, and this powerful heavenly dragon master was the party that attacked me. Therefore, I judge that you cannot enter the Great Tan Clan conference this time. Do you both have any objections? I have no objection. Jia Yan was the first to express quickly. He has no restrictions and naturally no opinions. I have an opinion. Why can't I join your Great Tan Clan? I am also one of the players. Master Xing Chen, who is the powerful dragon of the day, roared at this time, looking at the powerful starry sky level warrior from the Great Tan Clan, with there was a deep resentment. I don't care what disputes you had before. Now it's you who attacks first. This is your fault. Don't think that just because you are a strong heavenly dragon, you can do whatever you want. The starry sky level strongman said to Lord Xing Chen at this time. Cold words. The Tianlong expert is very powerful and has a great reputation. He even has one of the top 10 experts. However, their Dayton clan is the race that holds the gathering quota conference. It is normal to maintain the stability of the gathering conference, even if when the top heavenly dragon master comes, they also have a point. However, because of the special status of this powerful Tianlong, they had no way to continue to do anything to each other. Master Xing Chen obviously knew this too, but he just snorted angrily, and then gave him a look that could almost kill someone. Looked at Jia Yan. Boy, I'll wait for you outside. If you can, don't step out of the Great Tan clan's territory. After saying this, he flew away directly to the side. It turned out that this powerful man from Tianlong Star was also one of the participants in this conference. Because he arrived a few days early, he had nothing to do. Today he went out for a stroll, but he didn't expect to meet Jia Yan, the murderer of his son. This was the scene before. Jia Yan, on the other hand, looked at his leaving back with a solemn expression, because the words he said before he left may indicate that after the conference here is over, he will probably have a hard fight. He would know this guy, naturally through those high-tech intelligence images. But he really didn't expect that a strong heavenly dragon would be so powerful. The opponent didn't hold back in his previous attacks, and Jia Yan struggled to defend himself. As for whether Lord Xing Chen has any special skills that he hasn't used yet, he doesn't know, so if they fight again, who will win? Hard to say. You have to know their battle, but even the high-level powerhouse in the starry sky was surprised and dignified. Okay, don't be so arrogant in our Great Tan clan. If there is a next time, you will definitely not be lenient. After saying this mid-level starry sky level powerhouse led several starry sky level powerhouses back towards the original path. Jia Yan, you are so powerful. The previous battle was definitely the pinnacle level among the elementary starry sky level. The four-eyed monster came to Jia Yan and made a sound of exclamation. After all, Jia Yan had fought a strong heavenly dragon who was famous for his super fighting power. In this starry sky, the strong heavenly dragon was almost synonymous with leapfrogging battles. To think that Jia Yan actually tied with the opponent in the previous step scale battle. Of course, Now he still doesn't believe that Jia Yan can defeat this being. After all, many of the powerful Tianlong's methods have not been revealed yet. Don't praise him. He provoked the strong heavenly dragon. It's better not to cause us any trouble. The scaly monster pointed at Jia Yan, not knowing whether he had eaten gunpowder. Okay. Anyway, there's no big problem now. Let's go to our temporary residence. Jia Yan's battle this time brought a shadow of a conference to the Dayton clan, but the media from other races didn't care about this at all. They just thought they had dug out the best information. Excuse me. The Angel Camp, which has always been weak, suddenly received powerful and mysterious foreign aid. On the first day of arrival, it took on the Tianlong clan, and actually caused a strong dragon to fail and leave the land of the Great Tan clan. Is this a new grudge or an old grudge? A record of the grudges between the mysterious strongman and the powerful Tianlong will bring you the inside story of the grudges between the wealthy families. How strong is this strong man? Experts will answer it for you. Almost in an instant, the battle between Jia Yan, a strong man, and a strong heavenly dragon was quickly transmitted. Originally, it was not very common for strong men of this level to fight. Even if it happened, it should not have been so fermented. However, this was the moment of strong response from the cluster conference, and it happened in front of everyone. Now Jia Yan, a relatively unknown guy, immediately became widely known. Because of this mysterious powerhouse, Angel Camp, which was originally an unknown existence, was suddenly put under the spotlight. It can almost be described as fame and fortune. Of course, there are also bad effects brought about by being famous. For example, many forces began to study this small and unknown force. In this group of people, not only the old background of several strong men in the Angel Camp were dug out, but also Jia Yan. The experiences of outsiders on Tianlong Star were also dug up. Immediately, all kinds of opinions, instructions, and even curses came one after another. But this does not affect everyone in the Angel Camp. Okay, tomorrow is the official start of the conference. We have been too popular this time. The only thing I am worried about is that there will be some strong people who challenge us from the beginning. In the temporary residence of the Angel Camp, the current leader of the Angel Camp, that is, the four-eyed monster, opened his brain and explained his concerns while taking out the information of each strong person. However, there was not much discomfort in his tone. You know, Tianwei Camp has been extremely popular these days. As a being who dared to break the rules at the beginning of the gathering conference, they are famous. Makes sense. As a result, news came from Angel Camp's distant headquarters that their commercial business had doubled in a few days. Now even if I don't keep my collection quota, it doesn't matter. After all, even if they collected 1 or 2 chaos stones, they were just selling them. Of course, being able to win back this thing requires more than just 1 or 2 chaos stones. This is a special gift. If they can do it, the reputation of their power will also rise, and business will become smoother. But let's not put too much pressure on ourselves. We don't have too many goals this time. If we can keep it, keep it. If we can't, forget it, the four-eyed monster suddenly said when he saw Qingyu's 2 colleagues were nervous. It's not that we won't do it if we can't do it. You haven't forgotten my conditions, have you? Our land has entered the materials collection area. If you don't have this intention, then I will withdraw now and go to other forces to help them. Anyway, it's still too late to change the appearance, so I think they will be willing to accept my ideas. Just when the four-eyed monster said the previous words, Jia Yan suddenly spoke. And as soon as he opened his mouth, it made other beings feel surprised. Okay, since you said so, we will definitely strive for what we should strive for, not to mention that this is our goal in the first place. We will work hard even if you don't tell us. The four-eyed monster said. The meeting is over. Jia Yan leaves. Why is Jia Yan so interested in going to the place where materials are collected? Is there anything weird? The pink monster looked at several other strong men from the angel camp and said solemnly. As a latecomer, she didn't know much about Jia Yan, so at this time she brought up something that other strong men had ignored. Yes, this Jia Yan has always been mysterious, but it is difficult to refuse what we have promised him, and now it is also important for us to use his reputation. As for whether we can keep our ranking, that is not certain. After all, our reputation is too big now. If you want to give us some influence to teach you, it's not just one family or two families. What's more, even if he has some unique purpose, it will not be our responsibility to enter the gathering point when the time comes. After the four-eyed monster said this, several other beings finally nodded in agreement. And a big enemy that they, including Jia Yan, had almost forgotten, also took action at this time. In the darkness, a huge fiery red existence came into a battleship. Xing Chen, how dare you come to me? You forgot that I haven't held you accountable for missing the game. In the darkness, another huge existence was scolding the fiery red monster softly. Come on, the strength of our Tianlong star is not the same even if we are more powerful or less powerful. I came to you this time to ask you to do something. The fiery red monster is also extremely dazzling in the darkness. Compared with the monster in front of him that is almost invisible in the darkness, this monster is too high profile. Perhaps the only similarity between them, apart from their huge bodies, is their long tails. Begging me? Haha, is it about that Jia Yan? The monster in the darkness was a little surprised, but it didn't look like it was unprepared. That's right, I just want you to watch for a while and kill him in the conference. Even if you just send any brother, I know this guy's fighting power. Although he can compete with us for a while, he won't be able to last long. Our Tianlong clan is famous for our endurance. If we fight for a few more rounds, any one of our brothers can easily kill him. The eyes of the stars in the darkness have a kind of hatred. I can also wait for him to come out and then kill me. But who guarantees that this guy will die during the conference? Or after the conference, I can find a way to leave from other people's spaceships. It's impossible to check all the strong men's spaceships, right? In this way, we Tianlong strong men will offend too many people. So I still want your help. I won't be willing to let the guy who killed my son live another day. The being in the darkness seemed to hesitate. Okay. He let out a long sigh. The death of your son is also a great shame to us, the powerful Tianlong people. Since you want him to die, then we will think of a way. After finishing speaking, the sounds in this dark area became smaller and smaller. Another 10 Earth days or so have passed. In the past few days, strong teams have arrived one after another. Leaders of forces came one by one, and similar battles like the one between Jia Yan and the powerful Tianlong Xing Chen happened several times, and among them, one or two were quite big, which caused the quarrel between Jia Yan and the powerful Xing Chen. The battle has become less important. And on this day, the time finally arrived amidst the chaos and anticipation. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 567. Hello everyone, I am one of the hosts who has the honor to host this conference. My name is Tianzi. Vodpu. Friends who like me, please vote for me. Amidst the crisp voice of a beautiful woman, a huge salute sounded. Figures appeared on the live broadcast platform amid the salute. This live broadcast will be carried out by many forces and regional media. The transfer fee alone is an astronomical figure. It is no wonder that the small and medium-sized forces are all trying to get a quota for the event. Conference opportunity. As the organizer of the collection quota this time, the Dayton tribe naturally has 10 basic quotas, and they have a home field advantage. If there are no accidents, the Dayton clan will make a lot of money from this event. However, the organizing forces in the past have always been like this. The next person to enter is the powerful man from the angel camp. The leader of the team is Master Tianzi, who is known as the strongest evil eye in the angel camp. Look, there is also a strong flying man in their team who has occupied the media headlines some time ago. Mr. Jia Yan, whose identity is also confusing. This gentleman brought a false alarm to us people in Dayton when he first arrived in Dayton. I wonder if he, who once tied with the powerful Tianlong, will continue to give us a false alarm. Shall we bring a surprise? Among the monster teams, Jia Yan felt like a beast in a zoo cage, being watched by countless eyes. For the Dayton tribe, the first culprit who ruined their race's grand event was Jia Yan. Just like the words spoken by the host, it seemed to be praising Jia Yan, but in fact it caused come to the roar of countless spectators. Get out of here, Mr. Jia Yan, he is just a bastard who killed his boss. That's right, this guy is still fighting on the important day of our Dayton clan. He is simply a bastard who breaks the rules. Go back to where you came from, with that Tianlong man. When Jia Yan appeared in front of the camera, I don't know how many local viewers were making noise. After all, these locals still remember the existence of the first person to bring shadow to this gathering conference. Although it was the powerful Tianlong who took action at the time, Jia Yan did not take any care of the Dayton clan's buildings when he retaliated, and there were even casualties. After digging into the sky, many of them even felt sympathy for the dragon people. All his sons were killed by Jia Yan. Although Jia Yan was serving as a subordinate of another powerful Tianlong man at that time, in the eyes of the Dayton clan who couldn't tell the difference, this was an act of backlash against his master. Such a guy is almost like a public enemy. Haha, it seems our angel camp is quite famous. The four-eyed monster, known as the strongest evil eye, started to laugh with some self-deprecation at this moment. At this time, he didn't know whether inviting Jia Yan was the right decision. Although there have been some benefits before, if it has such a bad reputation, it will have a negative impact on the future. Not being envied is mediocrity. The more these weaklings are like this, the greater our influence is. As long as we perform well next, their boos will definitely change. The pink monster stood aside, he comforted the four-eyed monster. However, she looked at Jia Yan who was walking on the side, as if he was not affected at all, and she couldn't help but be surprised by his ambition. In fact, the scenes that Jia Yan has experienced are so small. When the entire Earth and the entire race place their hopes on one person, the invisible pressure is greater than that of these small residents of the Dayton tribe. It is simply the difference between a big witch and a small witch. So in this starry sky, his strength may not be top-notch, but when it comes to mentality and ability, he is definitely top-notch. Angel Camp operates in a fairly huge area, and this area, it even broke away from the original interstellar material of the Dayton clan. It turns out that in order to hold this grand event, the Dayton tribe spared no expense and purchased a piece of interstellar material as a special venue for the conference. After the event, this piece of interstellar material will be transformed into a residential area. And if the funds earned from holding the gathering quota conference cannot reach the expected value, then the Dayton clan will have to bear a huge financial deficit. But this has nothing to do with Jia Yan and other contestants. After passing through the long aisle, Jia Yan and several star-level players, as well as the few strong heaven-level contestants who followed behind, were completely frightened by the big scene. Together they walked into the formation of other strong men who had entered the scene before. This event was extremely popular, with more than 150 forces, large and small, sending their own teams to compete for collection quotas. Master Jia Yan from Angel Camp, right? I will blow you up, just pray that you don't meet me. Passing by a strong man, the other party made a fierce declaration to Jia Yan, but Jia Yan didn't even look back. Arrogant bastard, the monster almost jumped up, but was suppressed by other strong men in the same team with words. After all, at this juncture, it would be a huge loss for the family if they were judged to be disqualified for fighting randomly. There are actually so many starry sky level experts here. Despite Jia Yan's mediocre performance, in fact, he was anything but mediocre in his heart. He originally thought that this so-called quota competition for the Gathering Conference was just a small event, but he never expected that it would be such a high-level event. Perhaps it has surpassed its original meaning and has become a unique festival in this galaxy. And because of this, there are at least hundreds of powerful people here who have reached the starry sky level. This is the first time in a long time that Jia Yan has seen more than 10 starry sky level experts gathered together. And once they surpassed it by such an exaggerated amount. There were hundreds of starry sky level warriors gathered together, and the powerful aura they exuded almost filled the surrounding air. They all have a sense of solidification. It was the first time that Jia Yan felt such a terrifying formation. He even vaguely felt that so many starry sky levels, let alone others, might all use their brainwave power to suppress him, causing him to lose the ability to fight. Obediently surrendered. The other strong men seem to have become accustomed to this kind of battle. They are all hiding under this huge and terrifying momentum and communicating with each other. Jia Yan forced himself to relax. Perhaps for him, there would be too much tension after arriving in this starry sky. After all, in the starry sky before, Jia Yanja thought that even if he was not the strongest, there were very few strong people who were not much different from him. But here, there are strong people everywhere who are at the same level as him or even far beyond him. So the big mosquito is always nervous and unable to let go. He forced himself to talk calmly and comfortably with several starry sky level powerhouses from the angel camp. He even had conversations with those heaven level experts who looked more nervous. After talking again and again, Jia Yan finally let himself relax a little. Such a starry sky class is certainly scary, but it's impossible for them to unite to deal with me. After all, they are not monolithic. Jia Yan used this reason to slowly relax himself. Naturally, others couldn't see Big Mosquito's mentality at this time. Instead, they felt that Jia Yan had a good psychological quality for finding someone to talk to at such a tense moment. These strong men lined up and walked past the rostrum one by one. The so-called leader of the Great Tan clan above, and a man who didn't look very impressive, but others said he was one of the top 10 strong men. For these strong men, team by team, they sent out words of encouragement. That being, one of the top 10 powerful men, looked similar to a black bear and was only 3 meters in size. Moreover, when he spoke, he seemed to have the presence of an old god. After he finished speaking, he didn't care about the sight at all, and just stared in front of him like a godless person. Is this one of the top 10 strong men? If you don't know, you won't even think of others as strong men. But looking at it now, you can see that the energy around him is distorted. Jianji is more powerful than I imagined. When Jia Yan knew that the strong man was one of the top 10 strong men, she didn't believe it. But after taking a closer look, he realized that this black bear strong man was indeed extremely terrifying. Even Jia Yan could not imagine that he can escape the opponent's blow. I didn't expect that the gap between starry sky levels is so huge. But I believe that as long as I mutate again, I won't be much different from such a strong person, and may even be stronger. Jia Yan glanced at the strong black bear, and then turned his attention to other places. At the same moment, the strong black bear on the high platform came back to his senses in surprise. This top 10 strong man didn't even care when he came to such a scene. Before, he was just thinking about a recent cultivation problem that puzzled him. After all, the existence of evolved beasts is not there. If you want to be strong, you must find a way to make yourself think of a way forward in cultivation or other paths. But just as he was deep in thought, he suddenly noticed a faint fighting spirit being released from the group of powerful men below. It immediately brought him back to his senses. As an existence that is infinitely close to the star level, This strong man has a very strong sense of combat. If it were an ordinary starry sky level, he would not have any reaction at all, but this sense of threat is not that a feeling of weakness. Maybe he didn't have any malicious intent, and maybe he wasn't even considered weak, but when he saw this top 10 powerhouse before, he was full of confidence. His eyes were different from those of other strong men, which seemed to indicate that it would not take long for this strong man to fight with the top 10 strong men on the stage. Probably some kid who just debuted the strong black bear looked at it, but did not see the existence that issued the gaze, and returned to his thoughts without paying attention. After all, a young man with self-confidence is always indispensable, but only the existence of one of the top 10 strong men knows how difficult it is to really reach their level. If you see someone, you might pay more attention, but if you don't know who it is, forget it. The strong man withdrew his gaze, and Jia Yan below let out a long sigh. He didn't want to fall into the eyes of such a powerful person now. The players have entered. This gathering quota meeting has a total of 1,212 players, including 322 star level players and 890 sky level players. I hope all players will uphold the spirit of fighting and competition. Try to keep your hands as long as possible without harming people's lives. Next, is the official competition. Please be prepared. In the sweet voice of the host, the highest peak of the entire conference has arrived. Colored balls were released one by one, and salutes resounded throughout the world. The audience stood up, while the contestants silently prayed for victory. Jia Yan felt that this quota meeting was somewhat similar to the sports meeting on Earth. Of course, the scene was much grander than the sports meeting on Earth. And there are also many powerful men, each of whom can destroy the entire Earth. After the game started, Jia Yan knew the number of the angel camp to which he belonged. It's number 57. Group 57, Group 121, come on. It hadn't been long since the start of the game, and Jia Yan didn't think he would be able to play so soon, but the first game was their angel camp against the number 121 team. He was a little stunned. Don't be surprised, maybe it was arranged by the organizer, the four-eyed monster said helplessly. In fact, he had discovered before that the Dayton people had a bad impression of their angel camp, and now they naturally had to use their power to impose some restrictions on them or arrange a bad battle process. Let's go, this kind of thing is unavoidable, but we have the initial quota. The victory or defeat in the first round is not too important. As long as we win 2 out of 10 games, we can advance with the initial quota advantage. The pink monster is also extremely helpless. Originally, they didn't have much idea this year. The joining of Jia Yan, a starry sky class, gave them a glimmer of hope, but when this guy didn't help at all, he first made the entire Great Tan tribe hostile to their angel camp, so they were helpless. I don't know whether inviting this powerful man is a blessing or a curse. There are only 5 battles in the official competition. We have exactly 5 star level players now, so let's go straight to the battle. If you have the strength, the first strong person can directly pick off the other 5, but I guess we don't have this strength. The scale monster explained some rules to Jia Yan. Although she also knew that Jia Yan must have understood the rules a long time ago, she still had nothing to say to explain to him. Okay, I understand. Jia Yan did not show any impatience. Instead, he listened intently again. The entire Angels camp is in full swing. The opponent's opponent also entered the venue at this moment. Jia Yan was startled when he saw the other team members. It turned out that among these opponents, there was a guy who looked familiar. Thinking about it carefully, it turned out to be the starry sky level monster that Jia Yan had told him before that he would blow it up. Obviously, the other party did not expect that they would really encounter Jia Yan and it would be the first battle of the conference. But soon, the guy grinned. The opponent is a force that can barely be considered a medium-sized force. Among them, there is even an existence that is infinitely close to the midterm starry sky level. I think we should give up this time. The four-eyed monster said. Okay, we only have 5 starry sky levels. If too much energy is wasted here, or even someone is injured, the next battle will be very tiring. Giving up is also a wise choice, the pink monster agreed. I agree too, the scale monster responded. The other starry sky class from the angel camp never seemed to speak, but everyone knew from his expression that this guy also agreed. But Jia Yan didn't express his position. He now knows that in this conference, the Angel Battalion has readjusted its policy after his battle with the powerful Tianlong and became able to hold on to its quota. If it cannot hold on, try not to get hurt. But Jia Yan can't do this. He wants to enter the collecting place no matter what. Since you all have given up, I don't care, but there seems to be a guy on the other side who wants to fight with me. I'd better hide and put me at the last one. I hope I won't meet him. Jia Yan. When several starry sky levels began to discuss, they suddenly spoke. The four-eyed monster was startled. Originally this was a big taboo. After all, it is best for a foreign player to try not to raise any opinions on the home team's arrangements. But they originally wanted to give up on this game. As Jia Yan was probably no less powerful than any of them, there was no need for them to offend him on such an insignificant matter. Okay, then Jia Yan, you will be the last one to go up, and we will go up first. But you all be careful, go up and give it a try and then admit defeat. Don't waste too much energy. The first one to go on stage is not against Jia Yan, just let him win the battle alone. Otherwise, if you provoke that bellicose guy, there might be complications, the four-eyed monster said as he thought of Jia Yan. This guy has a lot of trouble. He is a guy who dares to fight even the powerful Tianlongs. If you act out of loyalty, you won't be able to win against the strong men here, and it would be a bit pointless to waste too much energy here. Superior. After discussing with Jia Yan, several strong men walked towards the stage together. The strong men from the opposing force also lined up their positions to take the stage. But when they saw Jia Yan's ranking, they all left. Because these strong men knew that the angel camp would definitely give up the game. After all, if you have a little bit of resistance, you will be a little concerned about ranking, but now the opponent's arrangements are completely messy and completely unstructured. What is this if not giving up? I originally thought that having a force that dared to fight against the powerful Tianlong and foreign aid would have greater ambitions, but now it seems that they are still just jumping fleas. It is not achievable at all. When the other team leader saw the angel camp, he burst out laughing speechlessly. Fortunately, he also regarded the other party as an opponent and arranged it seriously. It's normal for the angel battalion to do this. They are already weaker than us, and there are only 5 starry sky levels in the entire team. If they fight us, not only will they not win, but they will also cause personnel losses. There will not be 5 starry sky levels in the future. Then only the substitutes have reached the heaven level, and the scene is really not good to watch. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 568. If I were leading the team, I would have made this wise decision. Another strong player from the opposing team seemed to appreciate the angel camp's decision. Even the judges and event commentators on the stage have an understanding of angel camp. Of course, most Dayton commentators are cynical about this force that has dominated media headlines for quite some time. Seeing that the opponent had basically given up, the members of the other force who came on stage also smiled slightly. After all, it would be best if they could not fight. The personnel can use greater strength to deal with future opponents. You must know that although they are known as mid-level forces, but in fact, it is still very difficult to grab 10 basic places. The only person on the other side who was unhappy was the one who was assigned to play in 4th place. the strong man who had said harsh words to Jin Yan. At this time, he knew that if the angel camp gave up, then it might not be his turn to play, and the angel camp will all admit defeat to the first strong player on their side. He still wanted to torture Jia Yan directly. Members of both sides of the first column enter. The referee is a mantis-like strongman who has reached the middle stage of the starry sky. He is not big in body, but he is a powerful being with extremely fast speed. He is probably also very famous as a referee in the entire starry sky. He was specially targeted by those 10 people before. The black bear strongman among the strongmen called over and gave a special speech. This is an honor. The four-eyed monster didn't have anything to arrange, so he just came on stage. Even if you admit defeat, you still have to go through the motions, otherwise the situation in this first game will not be good. As soon as he came on stage, the opponent's monster spoke. Okay, the four-eyed monster said calmly. His opponent, like the four-eyed monster, was a being with multiple eyes. Looking at it at this moment, people felt a chill in their hearts. There is not much difference in strength between the two sides, so there is no reason to be afraid of the four-eyed monster. Boom! The two suddenly started to move at a faster speed. After that, they fought directly. The arena is a huge space of about 10 kilometers. Although for the powerful starry sky level, the battle can take dozens of kilometers in an instant, but such a restriction also has advantages, that is, it can release the combat power of the strong to the greatest extent, and at the same time, it can test their control ability. After all, fighting within 10 kilometers also requires a certain degree of control. The two sides fought hand to hand, and then the attacks almost turned into after images, and there were constant sharp collisions and explosions in the air. It's amazing. It's a star-level battle. It's really enjoyable. The audience on the audience stage and in front of the media were all shouting with excitement. It seems that the Tianwei camp has given up. This is just a fake fight. It's boring. I thought that the force that dared to fight against the strong Tianlong would be such a powerful force. It turns out that it is this kind of thing. Most powerful creatures couldn't tell that the two warring parties on the stage were not serious at all, but those powerful creatures didn't know this, and they were immediately disappointed. Let's not talk about anything else. After the two sides engaged in a battle that seemed to be a big battle, but the battle was over, the four-eyed monster jumped to the side and said softly, "Your Excellency is indeed powerful in combat. I myself don't admit it." Without saying a word, the four-eyed monster jumped down into the ring. "What's going on? You're giving up now." But this was really a wonderful battle. The two sides fought back and forth. It was really exciting. There were inexperienced spectators on the stage who made very satisfied sounds. However, the knowledgeable people shook their heads impatiently. They could imagine what the angel camp would do next. Sure enough, the pink monster who came on stage next also gave up after a battle without any damage. The scale monster that came next also gave up after fighting for a while. Why is this happening? Are they pretending to fight? No one is injured at all. This kind of fighting is not interesting at all. By now, even those ordinary intelligent creatures knew that they were pretending to fight, and they suddenly became dissatisfied. You have to be careful in the next game. The opponent may show a little strength. The four-eyed monster came to the starry sky level powerhouse of Angel Camp who didn't speak much. He took the stage in the next game. The monster nodded and then headed towards the field. Jia Yan stood aside and watched everything on the field indifferently. In the opposing team, it was still the monster that appeared first. I only saw him fight 3 times, and it was already a bit boring. After all, the battle was really interesting to the audience who didn't understand it, but for the Starry Sky class in the battle, it was a bit childish. Boom. Use your strength a little bit this time, otherwise it won't make sense. The opponent's existence, which was infinitely close to the mid-star stage, directly spoke to him in the audience with the power of brainwaves. "Oh, show some strength. This is what I like." The monster suddenly laughed. By now, he was a little impatient. The opponent's three strong men came in a row, and they all dealt with it hastily, which was not in line with the previous careful treatment. But now that the strong man on his side has spoken, he can let go and fight. Now he is happy. As for the other party, they probably wouldn't dare to fight back too fiercely. After all, at this level, even if they want to regret it and fight, they can't win. It's your fault for being unlucky. The strong man looked at the silent monster on stage and smiled directly. Let's start. When the referee's mantis monster suddenly made the sound of starting the game. Just hearing a bang, the opponent's monster turned toward the silent monster in the angel camp. Launched an attack. Why does it feel a little different? Suddenly, some ordinary creatures discovered something different. Interesting, this kind of battle is the real battle. Suddenly, some powerful creatures who felt bored became energetic at this moment. After all, in the previous battle, it was obvious that the angel camp had reached a surrender agreement with the other party, so in their view, the battle was not interesting at all, but now the monsters over there seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure of the audience. Let the vigorous fighting begin. Boom, boom, boom. Many shadows of fighting appeared on the ring, and the speed of the two sides fighting was instantly faster than before, and they even became angry. Such a strong fighting energy. Is this a real battle between starry sky classes? In comparison, those battles just now were just playing house among the creatures watching on the stage. Some finally came to their senses, and their emotions. The battle they called for before was not the true strength of the starry sky level at all. Trash, fake, some creatures couldn't help it and began to curse. Don't curse, they are star sky level, and I think they may just give up tactically. Giving up is good for the angel camp. But what's interesting is that the opponent seems to want to launch a big attack in the last two games. It depends on how the angels camp responds. There are still some people in the general audience who know the fighting theory of strong men, and at this time they are giving some pointers in a decent manner. But that's not a big mistake. Boom 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 boom. The earth cracked, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. These cracks are all real. After all, there is no building material that can withstand the powerful strength of the starry sky level powerhouse. If there is any, it must be used in battleships, etc. High-end weapons cannot be wasted in such a fighting arena. The opponent's monster attacks with a punch similar to a human fist. The silent monster here is completely hidden in the air, as if there is no shadow at all, and its body is also light and airy. It actually avoids countless attacks from the opponent without any weight. Okay, get hurt. The opponent's monster saw that his attacks were ineffective several times, and he lost his dignity. Immediately launched a more powerful attack. This silent monster may not be weak at all. But at this time, he did not exert his full strength at all, and was suppressed by the opponent and was beaten in a very awkward manner. With one punch, the opponent's attack power increased almost instantly. At this moment, the silent monster, which had not exerted its full strength, suddenly became in danger. Boom! After a loud noise, the silent monster's body was violently blown away. After rubbing on the ground, it fell to the ground. It was half silent. We admit defeat in this game. Just when the opponent's monster continued to pursue, the four-eyed monster already made a cold voice of admitting defeat. The monster acted as if it didn't hear anything and continued to punch the silent angel camp monster hard. But before that, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. At the moment when it attacked, it came in front of him. A huge mantis raised its front legs to block its attack. A shockwave appeared on the ring, and countless rubbles flew up, reminding people of the terrible doomsday scene. Okay, the angel camp has surrendered this time, you can leave. It was the referee monster who came to the opponent's monster. He used his not-so-huge mantis front legs to easily resist the opponent's monster's attack. At this time, he looked at the opponent's number 1 creature who wanted to break the rules and said a warning look. Although the monster was larger than the referee was a star-level monster, and the guy who wanted to pursue him had no idea of resistance and immediately withdrew his attack. Oh! Did you see that? The scene is really exciting? A star-level adult was actually beaten like this. Oh my god, this one alone is worth the price of admission. It's so worth it. The audience above was almost excited. The guy who defeated the silent monster returned to his own area with disdain and looked at the last enemy with a look of contempt. He believed that he could continue to sweep away his opponent in the first game, defeating 5 of his opponents and steal the show. This guy definitely did it on purpose. The 4-eyed monster here has already come on stage, taking the silent monster off the stage. However, looking at the extent of his injuries, they were not serious, and he couldn't help but feel angry. You know, they surrendered just to protect themselves from being injured, but in this situation, not only were they still injured, but they were also so embarrassed that almost all the players and spectators present were laughing at them loudly. Sir, in this situation, if I go on the field, can I let it go? Just when he was extremely angry, Jia Yan, who was standing by his side and silent throughout the whole process, suddenly made a voice. You! Let go and fight. The 4-eyed monster was startled when he heard this. He had originally planned to treat this time as just a fun trip. Then they would encounter weaker teams and find a way to win 1 or 2 games before they could compete. This was his original idea, which was why there was this water-breaking battle. But when things got to this point, the other party thought that even if Jia Yan continued his policy of letting go, he wouldn't be able to fight like he did before. So, what else are they doing here? Jia Yan, since things have turned out like this, you can fight me. Whatever it is to preserve your strength or think about the future, forget it. Just win this fight with as many people as you can. I won't blame you if you don't have the strength to fight again in the future. I'll give you permission, let's fight. The 4-eyed monster gritted his teeth. Hearing this, Jia Yan smiled lightly in his heart. He wanted to disobey orders before. When he was the last one to appear, he didn't let anything go and took care of the opponent in one piece. But the other party seemed to be very proud and directly caused the injury. Now, Jia Yan actually got the permission of the 4-eyed monster to fight with all his strength. He could not have a quarrel with the existence of this angel camp, but that was what he wanted. Jia Yan, his mother didn't even know he beat up this bastard. He actually did this. He thought he could beat us all with his strength. What a bastard. The scaly monster on one side was also extremely angry. At this time, it fiercely emitted the powerful wave of a starry sky-level powerhouse. If she hadn't already performed on the stage, she would have had a good fight with this guy no matter what she said. Don't worry, Jia Yan said lightly, I will give you a surprise. After he finished speaking, he walked slowly towards the ring. The monster over there heard the words from the monster on his side who was close to the mid-level starry sky level. What you just did went too far. When I say show off, I don't mean to hurt the opponent. You must know that the next Jia Yan may have the strength to match a strong Tianlong. Be careful that he hurts you. Don't worry, this guy is nothing to be afraid of. What's more, even if he can hurt me a little, he can't win over you guys who know me well. But I can't be defeated by him. I can fight them 1 against 5. Beat the level. The monster who was the first to appear on the opponent's stage is now full of confidence. In the previous battle, he lost a little strength in the last one. Now he still has a lot of strength. He believes in his own strength and can deal with a man who has passed through the media. Famous guys are extremely simple. This Jia Yan's strength is different from those of the previous Angel Camp guys. In short, you must be careful. If you really can't handle it, just admit defeat. Then we will avenge you. The monster, who was close to the mid-level starry sky level, said this after the sound. There was no more sound. He was just warning his subordinates. He also didn't think that his subordinates who trained with them for assault every day would lose to Jia Yan, a flying creature. Okay, next is the last contestant of the Angel Camp, the only starting foreign aide of the Angel Camp, and the powerful monster who caused huge troubles in the Great Tan clan before, Jia Yan. The host shouted loudly, but what followed was a series of boos. It can be seen that the reputation value of Big Mosquito here is definitely negative. The king on the other side is the starry sky level warrior of the returned forces who has won consecutive battles before. In today's first challenge match, he shined in the audience. He is destined to become a man of the hour today. Boom. When the host introduced the other party, the audience cheered overwhelmingly. Jia Yan felt helpless and depressed. Wasn't he sneak attacked by the powerful Tianlong Lord Xin Chen in the Great Tan clan? That was beyond his control. Was it necessary to hate it so much? Jia Yan was extremely depressed. But no matter which side the momentum is on, Jia Yang will not have any change in mentality. After all, he has been through so much. How could he be defeated by just this little blow? Which one is Jia Yan, who can fight against the powerful Tianlong, who is better than Lord Boehm, who has won consecutive battles and whose momentum is unstoppable? Or is Lord Boehm, who is destined to become a dazzling star today, continue his glory and defeat Jia Yan? What? Let's wait and see. The host created an extremely warm atmosphere at this time. Even ordinary creatures who had never heard of Jia Yan before finally understood that the last general of the Angel Camp was an extremely powerful being in the early days of the Starry Sky, and he faced, that's right, it was Boehm, who had won 4 games in a row and was completely full of momentum. Now it's really a battle between dragons and tigers. It's hard to say who will win and who will lose. Then Jia Yan, a guy I have never heard of before, only fought with a strong Tianlong once. Maybe the strong Tianlong had some physical problems that day? And is the strong Tianlong that powerful? Maybe he also blew it up. Yes, Mr. Boehm can probably fight 3 of them. In the audience stands, some viewers said exaggeratedly. But someone on the other side immediately refuted him with a sneer. Isn't the strong Tianlong powerful? Haha, don't come out and joke. It's not your fault that you are ignorant. It's the fault of the mental hospital that released you. Do you know what the strong Tianlong is? In our starry sky, the strong heavenly dragon is almost the representative of killing enemies at a higher level. It is ridiculous for you to say it out of ignorance. You, what are you talking about? Let's go out and challenge each other if we can. The creature that spoke before suddenly couldn't sit still. In fact, it is normal for ordinary creatures to not understand the superior starry sky level. After all, how can a little ant know this? The strength of elephants. Just go. I'm an earth-level peak person, but I'm still afraid of you. The guy who spoke behind stood up. I made a mistake, sir. I'm just a nobody with no rank. Please let me go. The guy who scolded Jia Yan in front of him suddenly shrugged. How could he have known that he could provoke someone with just a casual talk? An existence at the pinnacle of Earth level. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 569. There are many similar scenes in the audience, which also proves that Jia Yan only had a brief battle with the Star Master, and he became famous. It also shows that the Tianlong people, in this starry sky, in the end, what a terrifying existence. Tap tap tap. Jia Yan walked onto the ring gently. Opposite him was Boehm, who had won 4 games in a row. Boy, you have a great reputation, but I still advise you to admit defeat. You can't defeat me, Boehm said to Jia Yan with some disdain. In this starry sky, the younger starry sky level is 100 Earth years old. A creature like Jia Yan, who looks so youthful, is obviously less than 100 years old. so much so that Boehm called him Jia Yan is the boy. Jia Yan just looked at him, and then turned his attention to the strong man who was close to the middle stage of the starry sky. He knew that his biggest opponent was actually the sky. I'm talking to you, where did you see it? It seems like you are too young and your parents didn't teach you well. Seeing Jia Yan's disdain for him, Boehm suddenly felt filled with anger. Expressions emerge. It is simply unrealistic to expect these starry sky races to respect their elders and love their young. After all, the races in the starry sky are all different. Some races are over 100 years old and are still in their infancy. Some races, such as Earthlings, are still in their infancy when they are over 100 years old. What an old monster! Under such circumstances, no one takes respecting the elderly and caring for the young seriously. The other party's words finally made Jia Yan retract his gaze and focus on Bomb. Can I take your words as a provocation to me? Jia Yanfu asked the monster with a gleam in his eyes. Am I not provoking you? It seems like your parents didn't educate you well and you can't even understand the words. Bomb almost found the weakness of Jia Yan, a strong man. Master referee, the game has already started, right? Jia Yan's eyes darkened. If you know his character, you will know that he is now a little angry. Look, everyone, the referee on the field has waved the flag to start the game. The game has begun. Let's see if Mr. Jia Yan is as unbearable as the outside rumors say, the commentator outside the field said, made a cry of joy. And in the playing field. Seeing the signal to start the game, Jia Yan looked at where Boehm was. The distance between the two sides is about 1 kilometer. At this distance, the Starry Sky class can simply launch an attack, which can be said to be the best combat distance. Boehm is a tall monster. He is not like a flying creature like Jia Yan. No matter how powerful he is, he always looks a bit thin. Instead, he feels like a huge iron block, with a faint metallic feel. There was a ferocious light in Jia Yan's eyes. His father has always been a pain in his heart, but this guy actually used it to humiliate him like this. Absolutely abominable. Bang. When the opening signal came, Jia Yan's body suddenly moved. His 6 front feet lightly kicked on the ground, and then the audience in the field felt that the huge mosquito turned into a streak of light and headed towards Boehm not far away. Huh? It's quite fast. Boehm's eyes widened in surprise, but he was still a star-level expert and could not be frightened by Jia Yan's speed so easily. Just before the stream of light that the big mosquito turned into came, Boehm moved sideways and dodged to the right. However, Jia Yan positioned it as an enemy that needed to be defeated. How could he avoid it so easily? There was surprise in his compound eyes, and then an even greater power suddenly burst out from his body. The speed of the big mosquito was originally an extremely terrifying strength. Now, after being strengthened again and again, for Jia Yan, he is really not afraid of anyone of the same level in terms of speed. And this so-called Bomb was at best a good player among the early Starry Sky warriors, and was even less looked down upon by him. How can it be? Boehm saw a figure as fast as lightning approaching in front of his moving figure. The speed was so sudden that he had no time to react. A terrifying black shadow stabbed straight into the sky. Boehm was shocked in his heart and quickly raised his arms to block. His speed was not his strong point in the first place. Under such a terrifying speed attack, there was no possibility of counterattack. Puff. When Boehm used his arms to block the opponent, Jia Yan's attack had already arrived. He only felt as if his arm had instantly endured a huge force that far exceeded his ability to resist. Moreover, the opponent's attack power came through an east point attack. The previous attack speed was too fast. He did not see what the attack was, but he could imagine that it was definitely an extremely sharp attack. Thing. And Jia Yan's sudden attack, as well as the terrifying speed, also caused extreme shock inside and outside the field. So fast. So fast. This is the real strength of player Jia Yan. This is the real strength of being able to fight against the powerful Tianlong. Player Jia Yan is using his power to tell people that there is no doubt about his strength. It can definitely be the top level among the early strong ones. While the host was speaking, Jia Yan's lightning-fast body stood in front of Boehm's larger body and launched an attack like a tide. Puff 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 puff. A series of terrifying front foot thrusts struck Boehm's body, leaving a trail of blood on the surface of the opponent's body. However, Boehm's ability to become a star-level player depends not only on his attacks, but also on his extremely powerful defense. I saw Jia Yan's front foot stabbing, which was a very terrifying attack method in the past, but now it can only leave wounds of more than 10 or 20 centimeters on the body of this star-level master. Asshole, I'm Boehm. How can I be defeated by you if I want to clear your angel camp? Boehm suddenly roared. He seized the opportunity with his fist, aimed at Jia Yan's position, and struck hard. Comes with a fierce punch. However, Jia Yan didn't show any surprise. Instead, at this moment, his eyes were a little sinister. Looking at the opponent's fist, his body actually blurred in place. Hoo-hoo. The big mosquito's body disappeared in front of Boehm's eyes in an instant. How is it possible? This. Boehm was shocked. But just when he wanted to turn around and look for Jia Yan's whereabouts, a terrible sense of crisis came from the left side of his body. He didn't have time to react at all. He only saw a slender forefoot reaching out from the side, and like lightning, it shot through the gap in Boehm's defense. Puff. There was a slight sound, like a piece of brocade being torn apart. Blood splashed out, and there was a slight groan, as if the person who could never make a sound was almost dying. Asshole, you dare to kill someone. A deep voice suddenly sounded from below. It turned out to be the opponent's strongest early Starry Sky expert. Don't worry, he's not dead. Death is not allowed in this game, otherwise. Jia Yan's voice sounded almost at the same time. Sure enough, Boehm was seen bathing in blood, and he kept shouting out. Although there was a lot of blood, it seemed from the surface that Jia Yan's blow did not hurt his vital parts. However, it is unclear whether the other party deliberately let the situation slip. In any case, the big mosquito won. This is a fact that cannot be ignored. Jia Yan wins this game. The strong referee stepped forward, looked at the injured Boehm, and then looked deeply at Jia Yan, who was bathing in a pool of blood, and then said with a hint of meaning. You know, at that moment before, he wanted to rescue, but at that moment, he found that with his own speed, he couldn't rescue him. At this time, even the powerful referee in the midterm of the Starry Sky was a little wary of Jia Yan, a flying creature. Asshole, this guy definitely did it on purpose. I'll go up and deal with him. The second opponent in the opponent's team jumped onto the stage with almost no time to stay. At this time, the spectators on the sidelines had just recovered from Big Mosquito's violent attack performance. They all looked at Big Mosquito's arrogant figure in amazement and felt incredible. This guy's strength is so terrifying. It seems that he didn't show his true ability in the battle with the strong Tianlong that day. The pink monster from the angel camp looked at the figure of the Big Mosquito in great surprise. There is a hint of expectation for Jia Yan's fighting power. I knew that maybe he wouldn't be able to win the battle now. The scaly monster looked sweet, as if Jia Yan's high evaluation was more deserving of her happiness than her own high evaluation. The audience on the stage were also extremely surprised. The host's voice sounded again after a moment of stunned pause. It's incredible. Lord Jia Yan swept away Lord Boehm, who is known for both attack and defense, with one strike. In this battle, Lord Jia Yan, the strongest person at the end of the angel camp, won a perfect victory. Countless exclamations erupted on the stage. No ordinary creature could see Jia Yan's attacks clearly. They only saw a series of afterimages lighting up. Then, with a single blow from the Big Mosquito, they had won 4 consecutive games. he was about to use an invincible attitude to kill Bohm, who had picked off the entire Tianwei camp, in seconds. That's right. Even in the eyes of starry sky-level monsters, Jia Yan used a series of attacks to defeat Bohm, but in the eyes of ordinary creatures, Jia Yan's series of attacks are basically connected together. Such attacks are in their eyes it's just one move or a set of combination moves. If you look at it this way, what is Jia Yan if he doesn't knock out Bohm instantly with one move? Well, it seems that Sir Jia Yan's victory has aroused the hostility of the strong men of the returning forces. Look, their second strong man, Mr. Suo Ha, has already arrived at the field. It seems that he has no time to attack Jia Yan. Your Excellency, a strong man who defeated his own comrades, challenges me. On the ring, the powerful returner who lined up behind Bohm has arrived. This monster is a speedy starry sky-level creature. His body is smaller than Jia Yan, and his appearance is also slimmer. It looks aerodynamic, although for the strong, aerodynamics is no longer such a huge influence. But after all, it is also a huge impact. For a strong person, this kind of influence can definitely determine life and death. Jia Yan, right? You think you can defeat us all with your speed? I want you to see that your speed is no match for me. The other party looked at Jia Yan's aerodynamic body, which was not as aerodynamic as his, with a disdainful expression. Jia Yan would win before. In his opinion, it was very similar to his fighting style, because he also used speed to attack the enemy until he completely killed the enemy. However, in his eyes, Jia Yan's speed is of a level that poses no threat to him. Bohm, whom Jia Yan fought against before, was one of them who had no way to deal with speed-based enemies. The biggest reason why it is impossible to become the main force among the returning forces. As for him, a strong man, his status in the returning force is higher than that of Bohm, because he is a speed-type strong man, and his strength exceeds Bohm's. He is confident about Jia Yan. But Jia Yan's reply made this strong man almost jump like thunder at this moment. Faced with his provocation, he thought Jia Yan would be angry, retort, and despise him, but he never expected that Jia Yan's reaction would be extremely cold. Jia Yan just looked at him and said lightly, "Oh, really?" It seemed to be disdainful, but also seemed to not care. "Asshole, Mr. Referee, can we fight? I can't wait to tear him to pieces." The speedy man asked the referee respectfully. "I emphasize again that death is not allowed in the conference. Please pay attention to both of you," the referee repeated this point to both of them. After all, it seems that both sides are too angry now. As soon as the referee finished speaking, the monster launched an attack with no regard for grace. This is the disadvantage of Lin Chan. A strong person has no time to recover his strength. If the next opponent has a little hurry, he can attack while the opponent's strength has not recovered much. The chance of winning is greatly improved. And this is what the conference allowed, and if you want to stand out in the limelight, you must face it. But is this effective for large mosquitoes? The durability of his power is far beyond that of other creatures of the same level. What's more, was his previous battle with Bohm his true strength? No one knows this. Boom boom boom. The opponent's speed-type Starry Sky class instantly crossed a kilometer distance and arrived in front of Jia Yan. But just when it came near Jia Yan's body, Jia Yan's big mosquito suddenly moved. If you were still a guy with stronger defense, maybe I would be a little more troublesome, but you are actually a speed creature with too weak defense level, so I'm sorry, my strength can suppress a guy like you, completely. It's the one who beats you up. Jia Yan made a faint sound of disdain in his heart. The moment the opponent approached, his body moved instantly. Although he still didn't show any speed that exceeded this speed-type enemy, Jia Yan's body exploded at a speed that far exceeded before. While moving, Jia Yan's 6 feet also moved crazily. This speed of movement can be described as extremely terrifying. As for the speed type Starry Sky class, when it was approaching, I felt that the speed of the big mosquito in front was indeed what I thought, and I had reservations. But now that it moves, it is still not as fast as my own. At this moment, the monster felt calm. But on his attack route, an extremely long front foot suddenly appeared. Huh? Are the legs of this creature so long? This speed monster was suddenly shocked in his heart. However, his speed has reached an extremely fast level, and the two are extremely close. It is already too late to dodge. Now he can only continue to attack. But what he didn't know was that this attack was the worst decision that sent him into hell. Jia Yan's only means of moving his body were his two hind legs, and his forelegs were shooting at the enemy from 4 directions at this moment. Usually, Jia Yan's feet are contracted under the body, and usually the front feet attack more, but this does not mean that Jia Yan will not use other feet to attack. When he was still a weak little mosquito, he would use all his legs to attack. Now that he uses these tactics again, he is very accustomed to it. In the eyes of all the spectators present, at this moment, the big mosquito suddenly stood up in front of the rapidly approaching opponent. His figure, which was not too small in the first place, actually looked extremely terrifying. And the speedy Starry Sky level opponent who rushed forward threw himself into a trap at this moment and crashed directly into the large web of feet woven by the big mosquito. Poof! Puff puff! The 4 legs penetrated the opponent's body in no particular order. Meow by, **ge. As for that speed type body, a spike shot out from the top of its head, and it shot out, piercing a faint blue defense on the abdomen of the big mosquito. 4 bloody holes appeared in the body of the speed creature, but Jia Yan, the big mosquito, was not injured at all. What? How is it possible? The speed type figure looked at the sharp legs stabbed into his body. He originally thought that even if he couldn't dodge them all, he could at least dodge 2, but now it seems that not even one of them can be avoided. This is such an extraordinary vision, and such a precise attack power. What's even more terrifying isn't this monster a flying creature? Why is his defense so terrible? The spikes shot from the top of the speed creature's head are one of its trump cards. Little did he know that Jia Yan was also secretly breathing hard. At this speed, he almost couldn't maintain the accuracy of his attack, and his foot stabbed the opponent's vital part. This time, Jia Yan still wins, the referee's voice suddenly sounded. Okay, we have solved another opponent, and there are still 3 more to go. Jia Yan suddenly smiled in his heart when he heard this voice. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 570. Jia Yan's efforts were not for that angel camp, but for his next mutation. Facing a star-level opponent was far from simple, but Jia Yan had to do something. It is related to the future mutation plan, and even whether his mutation is smooth and can directly lead to the starry sky beast that he most wants to achieve. Jia Yan is definitely redoubling his efforts now, because all of this is related to his future. Among the strong men who have returned to power, the only one who poses a threat to me is the one who is close to the middle stage of the starry sky. And what they don't know is that my endurance is my greatest advantage now. If they want to take advantage of the Will War General, it's impossible for me to run out of power. As expected, Jia Yan's victory caused great pressure on the remaining opponents of the return force. This guy is really not an easy opponent to deal with. Next, I will use up a little of his power, and then it will be up to you. The starry sky level creature who came on the 3rd field said to the starry sky level creature in the 4th game. And the creature in the 4th scene was the guy who provoked Jia Yan before. Don't worry, even if you let me go up now, I will definitely beat him to pieces. The existence in the 4th scene is still full of hostility towards Jia Yan. Don't be careless. If the battle is dragged out to me, even if you win, you will still lose. After all, Bohm has 4 consecutive slashes, and he will also do 4 consecutive slashes. It is simply a slap in the face to us, the existence that is close to the midterm of the starry sky, said to the other two. Don't worry, he won't be able to walk in front of you, the third creature said calmly. Return force, please invite your third player to come on stage, the referee said to several players from return force. The third place creature slowly came on stage. This is a creature that looks like a giant python, but it has a long horn on its head. It looks a bit similar to those mythical dragons on Earth. But he couldn't be a dragon. Instead, there was a bloody aura permeating the air while he was swimming. As soon as it came on stage, the smell of blood was strong. It was obvious that this was a murderous beast that had experienced countless bloody storms. Jia Yan, you did a good job in the battle just now, but fighting with me is not that simple. I have been fighting since I was born, and I don't know how many times I have fought until now. I advise you to surrender. The other party came to the stage and said directly. Jia Yan looked at the opponent, and then said calmly with the same expression he had on his previous opponent. Oh, is it so? This sentence is very lethal. It seems that I want to use my combat experience to tell you what it means to respect people. The python monster showed a look of anger and hatred. Although he did not think he would defeat Jia Yan, he absolutely trusted his fighting ability. With a hissing sound, the opponent swam toward Jia Yan in front of the field. The referee also gave the order to start the game at the right time. Boom boom boom. The first moment the game started, the python monster attacked Jia Yan suddenly. His purpose was to consume Jia Yan's fighting energy. Although he knew that he was unlikely to win, he didn't mind sacrificing a little defeat for his companion's victory. This kind of existence with rich combat experience has an astonishing recognition and grasp of combat. As for Jia Yan, he may be an unbeatable person, but if he wants to consume the opponent's energy, he has too many ways. The other party was approaching with the purpose of not giving Jia Yan time to recover. Jia Yan looked at the opponent's figure, and he could also feel that although this monster's movements were not the strongest among the opponents he had encountered, it might be more difficult than the previous opponents he had encountered. As soon as the figure arrived nearby, the opponent's first attack was already a fierce attack. Jia Yan had already calculated his attack distance. It was clear that as long as the opponent moved forward a few meters, he would be able to directly launch a vicious attack. However, this giant python monster actually grasped this point. When he was about to attack, the moment before, take action directly. His body suddenly rushed up, his mouth opened wide, and his bloody mouth stabbed directly in the direction of Jia Yan's head. Sure enough, he is a difficult guy. Jin Yan confirmed his guess that this giant python is not someone to be trifled with. However, he didn't show much movement. At this moment, he retracted his forefoot, which was ready to attack, and at the same time, his body changed direction. Boom 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 boom. The giant python's attack came closer, but the mosquito's evasive speed was just right, and it could barely avoid the opponent's attack. I knew you would hide. The python monster's cold eyes flashed with a look full of wisdom. As a creature who has lived long enough and fought enough battles, he has encountered countless creatures stronger than himself in his long life, but none of these creatures killed him, and many of them were even killed by him. Counterattack and eat. The first time he looked at Jia Yan, he knew that Jin Yan was not something he could deal with, but he didn't think he would fail miserably, because he had too many similar experiences, and every time he was able to survive through various methods. Come down, so this time is no exception. He thinks that even if he cannot win, he will definitely be able to create a weak state for Jia Yan for the next teammates. If it's a life and death battle, I won't give up so easily. As soon as the giant python struck, it seemed that he had already known that Jia Yan would dodge at a small angle. He even guessed that Jia Yan was about to make a counterattack in an instant. Because beings who are confident in their own strength will do this. Don't ask how this giant python knows, these are all experiences. As expected. The moment Jia Yan dodged the attack, because he deliberately avoided it at a slight angle, the distance between the two sides was extremely close. Then he directly raised his mouth needle and fired his mouthpart attack at the giant python monster. The needle in the mouthpart has already been as hard as iron. If he attacks the opponent at this time, Jia Yan is confident that he will directly poke a big hole in it. However, the giant python monster with extremely rich fighting experience had already anticipated Jia Yan's movements. How could he be hit by his next attack? I saw that the giant python monster's body fell directly to the side after attacking. The huge body fell to the ground, very embarrassed, but it also avoided the needle attack from Jia Yan's pursuit. Jia Yan missed the blow and was extremely surprised. However, the giant python monster has even calculated this point. The action of his falling to the ground is not good looking, but the tail he whipped up can swing very high at this moment. And using this swing, he directly moved his tail towards a person. Jia Yan, who missed the hit hard. Jia Yan felt surprised in his heart, as if he did not expect this tail swish. Hoo ho ho. The huge whistling sound of the swishing tail was transmitted to Jia Yan's antennae ears, and it was already very close before Jia Yan noticed it. This guy. He has so much combat experience. Jia Yan was shocked and quickly turned on his own speed. 6 feet exerted force at the same time. At this moment, Jia Yan's speed even reached almost 80% of his limit. Snapped. The attack fell, hitting the ground hard. A long ravine suddenly appeared on the ground, and the monster's attack turned the entire ground upside down. However, Jia Yan's ability to avoid it was a bit beyond his expectation. His speed is actually faster than before. This is simply not the speed he could have in the early days. The giant python monster looked at Jia Yan's superb figure escaping from the attack, and his expression was full of more solemn meaning. And Jia Yan also had a solemn feeling in his heart towards this old opponent whose speed, strength, and reflexes were not very good. It seems that combat experience can also greatly improve combat effectiveness. This creature with very experienced combat experience is an invisible suppression for a being like me who has little experience in fighting starry sky monsters. But Jia Yanfu's eyes were filled with sparkle and luster. No matter how big the gap in combat experience is, if the difference in strength is too great, then experience will be insignificant. A light of relief suddenly appeared in Jia Yanfu's eyes. He originally wanted to try not to show his strength in the first battle and try to hide it as much as possible, but facing such an opponent, he didn't want to show his strength, and it was impossible. Then, let's use the strength of about 7 levels, Jia Yan thought lightly. If it was a normal battle, he might have some thoughts and spend more time with the opponent to see where his experience is. But now in the game, there is still a guy who is close to the midterm of stars for him to deal with in the future, so he must not fight quickly. Bang! The big mosquito suddenly started to speed up at this moment. He raised his front foot slightly, almost exactly the same angle as the attack he was planning to launch before. The only difference was that Jia Yan's attack this time used strength that reached about the 7th level of his peak strength. Puff! The python monster looked horrified at this time. He felt that Jia Yan had some reservations in strength, but how could he have imagined that he had retained so much? His body had already judged Jia Yan's attack angle and reacted to avoid it, but now he just felt that his speed was completely insufficient. Oh, this is the gap in strength, it cannot be made up at this time, the python monster expressed extremely depressed thoughts. But don't even think about this guy feeling comfortable. When the python monster saw Jia Yan's actions, it knew that it had no chance of defeating it at this moment. But at this moment, he still used his last ability to resist. A terrifying light appeared in his eyes, and at the same time, a trace of blood suddenly appeared on his body. Jia Yan was slightly shocked, but it was impossible to stop his actions at this time, so he could only continue to attack. The opponent's body swelled up almost in an instant. Just for a moment when Jia Yan attacked, the surrounding light seemed to be distorted. I can feel that this guy's body is releasing a kind of energy that I have never seen before. What kind of energy is this? Facing the unknown, Jia Yan felt a sense of fear in his heart. However, his speed did not slow down and he continued to attack at this time. Boom! The front foot struck the opponent's body hard. There is absolutely no possibility of evading this giant python monster. But Jia Yan's heart sank slightly at the same time. He saw a powerful energy suddenly coming out of the other party's body. Hiss. The giant python monster let out a series of hisses from its mouth at this time. Regardless of the middle part of its body being stabbed by the mosquito's forefoot, causing a huge gap, it suddenly spat out a glowing energy sphere from its mouth at this moment. Jia Yan could feel that this energy sphere actually contained terrifying energy. But it was something he had never heard of. Not only him, but also many starry sky level beings in the audience stood up in great surprise. This is real power. This python monster has actually developed real power. But this guy is only in the early stage of the starry sky. I'm afraid he won't be able to continue practicing until he is truly capable. Otherwise, he may really go one step further and become the pinnacle of the starry sky level, maybe even the great star level. The starry sky class in the audience all looked at the python monster on the field, and their expressions changed slightly at this time. They also understood why this monster had not used its true energy until now. This was because this energy was extremely rare. Although the other party had cultivated it, for the creatures in the early days of the starry sky, it would take too much time to cultivate a ray of true energy. It has been a long time, and this is also this guy who is too old. Other beings will definitely save their true energy to see if it will be useful when they reach the top in the future. Although the words in the audience were extremely restless, for the ever-changing arena, the battle at this time could not be distracted at all. Jia Yan was shocked when he saw the power of the opponent's attack. Resisting the thought of turning around and escaping, Jia Yan knew that if he escaped, the advantage he had finally created would be gone in an instant. Although the opponent's fighting method was gradually understood, he could easily solve it even if he tried it over again, but Jia Yan doesn't want to waste this time. Wave. That magical energy passed by Jia Yan's mouth. Jia Yan could feel the terrifying penetrating power contained in this energy. If he was hit directly by it, his blue defense might not be able to defend it. Fortunately, the attack speed of the python monster was too slow for Jia Yan, so slow that he could clearly see the monster's many flaws. Breaking through this energy, Jia Yan came to the wound where the monster was injured. The strange light in his compound eyes became even more intense. In his eyes, the giant python creature's expression is still dull at this moment, and it is even possible that the other party has already guessed the result. Jia Yan also saw in his eyes that if this was a life and death battle, the other party would definitely have other stronger foundations. You still have it, why don't I? I haven't even used my full strength at all. Jia Yan suppressed the fear in the monster's eyes and directly stabbed the opponent's body with his front foot. Puff. A puff of blood bloomed in the air, and the python monster suddenly died. Jia Yan wins. The referee's timely voice echoed from behind. Everyone in the audience, as well as the beings in the angel camp, were all shocked at this time, especially the four-eyed monster. He had asked Jia Yan to cause a scene before, but he never thought that this foreign aid could really sweep the opponent. But now, he has won 3 games in a row. Is it really possible to achieve a sweep? No, 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 it's impossible. The two beings behind the opponent are more powerful. There is also the guy who is close to the middle stage of the starry sky. The last one, let alone whether Jia Yan can beat them all, even if he can, but after so many battles, Jia Yan was definitely exhausted, and there was no chance of winning at all. If I had known better, I wouldn't have given up so many games before. At least I could have saved some energy for Jia Yan. Thinking of this, the four-eyed monster regretted it. How did he know that Jia Yan was actually much stronger than he imagined? The audience and contestants were all extremely surprised by the performance on the stage. However, the sluggish python monster on the stage, although injured at this time, still looked at Jia Yan with no trace of emotion in his eyes. Frustration. What energy did you use before? Jia Yan stood in front of the other party and asked Zhiyuan in surprise. You don't know, the giant python monster responded very strangely, but he immediately responded to himself and explained. That's right. You're still so young, so it's not wrong that you don't know this kind of energy. While waiting for the referee to come forward, he stood up directly. The injuries on his body did not seem to be too serious. Let me tell you, this kind of energy is called true energy. It is said to be the energy that can see through the nature of the universe and reach the true state. However, who can see through the true nature of the universe? Anyway, this kind of power is indispensable for reaching higher levels. If you want to go further and reach the level of the top 10 powerful people, or even want to become a great star level, this kind of energy is absolutely needed. You can defeat me now because my total amount of true energy is still too small, and I am too old. If you meet a younger person who has mastered true energy, you will definitely lose. Degrees Celsius meow degrees Celsius by degrees Celsius GE degrees Celsius. Okay, I can invite the next contestants to come on stage. After seeing the python monster talking to Jia Yan for a long time, the mid-starry sky level referee asked calmly. The python monster looked at Jia Yan, as if he wanted to say something, but still didn't say anything and flew directly towards the audience. Boy, you don't have to listen too much to what he said. Real ability is something you can't have until the opportunity comes suddenly, the referee standing next to Jia Yan said to Jia Yan. The big mosquito was startled when he heard this. He didn't know why this strong referee suddenly pointed him out. But it seems that this referee is stronger than the python monster. So after being distracted for a while, Jia Yan tried to ask before the game started, Mr. Referee, have you mastered the real ability? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 571. The referee's huge mantis front feet overlapped each other, and he did not directly announce the next contestant to come on stage. Instead, after hearing Jia Yan's question, he turned back lightly and glanced at Jia Yan. Boom! At this moment, Jia Yan only felt an indescribable terrifying momentum, which suddenly broke through his mental defense and plunged into the depths of his soul. It almost made him lose consciousness instantly. But this feeling goes as quickly as it comes. The first moment Jia Yan came back to his senses from a trance, he heard the strong referee shouting to Tai. Angel Camp Jia Yan has won 3 games in a row. The 4th strong man from the return force please come on stage. Jia Yan looked at the back of this strong referee with great fear, and suddenly there was a deep sense of vigilance in his heart. It turned out that his strength had actually reached such a terrifying level, Jia Yan felt like his soul was being torn apart just by looking at him. At this moment, Jia Yan felt a wave of energy similar to the one he felt from the python monster before. There is no need to answer to the question, that is, this strong referee has definitely mastered the existence of true power. Jia Yan suddenly felt very surprised about something like true energy. After all, how could the type of energy used by even this powerful being be simple? Really? And they also said that this kind of energy is the road to the starry sky level peak, Jia Yan thought with some surprise. If these arguments are correct, then there is a theory about him, that is, Jia Yan entered the starry sky summit by swallowing objects such as chaos stones, but he did not develop the so-called true energy. So how to explain this matter? Jia Yan doesn't think there is much difference between evolved beasts and other starry sky creatures in nature. After all, he feels that in this starry sky, even if there are no evolved beasts, there may be degenerate beasts, mutated beasts and so on. Yes, the evolved beast may just be a relatively unique species in the universe. But if he can skip the steps required by other species and become a star-level peak, then Jia Yan's judgment may be wrong. That is the evolved beast. Is it really special? But now that I know there is such a thing as true energy, I won't take that risk. If I join the guild, I still have to find a way to learn the so-called true energy cultivation method. Look, everyone, player Jia Yan's opponent has already appeared in the next match. This person is the second person in the returning force. Ju said that before the war started, this being had a not too friendly conversation with player Jia Yan. Now let's see how the feud between them will end. Jia Yan was distracted for a moment, and the fourth star-level entity of the returned force, who had had a verbal battle with Jia Yan, slowly stepped onto the ring. Boy, I didn't expect you to be able to defeat so many of my teammates in one go. Now let me fulfill my promise before the game and beat you up, this person who looked very strong said to Jia Yan smiled coldly. Jia Yan had just come back to his senses, and when he heard the voice, he immediately responded. He found that a familiar word was extremely powerful in returning power. Oh, really? He continued to respond calmly. The opponent who just came on stage immediately opened his eyes. He heard Jia Yan making fun of the teammates in front of him. Now he suddenly heard Jia Yan say that again, and his mood suddenly became bad. He felt that Jia Yan regarded him as the same as his previous teammates. It seems you still don't understand that my strength is not at the same level as theirs before. Don't wait for this so-called strong man to finish speaking. Boom. Jia Yan's feet suddenly moved and struck hard towards the strong man's location. I don't have time to keep arguing with you, I'm sorry. Jia Yan launched a direct attack on this strong man, which immediately aroused the surprise of those watching the starry sky level on the stage. The host used his super fast speaking speed at the right time to explain quickly. Oh, this is the first time in a long time that player Jia Yan has launched an active attack. Could it be that this opponent puts pressure on him that is different from other players? Let's wait and see. In fact, the host's strength is also at the star level, and half of his strength lies in his mouth, so no one is surprised when he speaks like a machine gun. I just don't know if there is anyone who can understand it. This guy actually took the initiative to attack me. The strong opponent was filled with surprise and uncertainty in his heart at this moment. In the previous battles, Jia Yan waited for the attack and then counterattacked. But now he actually takes the initiative to attack, and he doesn't know why he changed. Okay, let's see how you avoid my arm. This being immediately waved his arms. His strongest point is his arms, because his arms, unlike other beings, are a terrifying 20 meters long, almost as tall as his body. Normally, when this being fights against ordinary opponents, he hardly uses any other moves. Just by swinging his arms like this, the opponent can be directly hit by the swing, either to death or injury. It can be said to be extremely powerful. And this time, he thought there was no surprise at all, because this kind of thing had happened many times. Really? When Jia Yan was sprinting, he suddenly felt clear in his heart. He had faintly seen before that this opponent was indeed powerful, but not as powerful as he thought he was. Not to the point of that python monster, can you have an advantage just because of the length of your arms? If it were that simple, Jia Yan's feet would be dozens of meters long, wouldn't he already dominate the star territory? However, Jia Yan didn't say anything directly. At this time, the other party's confidence was actually a good thing for him. What a speed! The strong monster was horrified when he saw Jia Yan's speed. Before in the audience, he felt that although Jia Yan was fast, it was just that, but when he came on stage to try his skills, he suddenly found that he couldn't react at all. He raised his huge arm directly and struck hard towards Jia Yan's path. This guy's arms are indeed powerful, with his fingers spread out, almost completely blocking Jia Yan's path. Jia Yan looked at the Wuzi mountain in front of him and felt that the sky and sun were blocking the sky in front of him, which was a terrifying scene. But he was not frightened by the sight. Instead, he suddenly changed the direction at the forward angle, and then jumped directly towards the back of the opponent's body. Poof! The sharp front feet stabbed into the belly of the strong monster. You, the monster was simply horrified. He looked at Jia Yan with a look of extreme shock. It was strange that Jia Yan was stabbed in the opponent's body. If he followed what the opponent said, his strength could not be that simple, but now Jia Yan easily defeated him directly. Jia Yan wins. Without waiting for any dialogue between the two sides, the strong referee had already declared Jia Yan's victory. How is it possible? How could I lose? I shouldn't lose. This strong monster walked downwards in a somewhat distracted manner, as if it no longer possessed the grace of a strong man. Jia Yan was also surprised. In his opinion, this starry sky-level monster was not very strong, but it seemed that other starry-level monsters were also very shocked that he could defeat it so easily. Oh! I understand, this may be the difference between the two starry skies. In this starry sky, the difference in energy creates the general strength here. It is indeed stronger than the strong ones in the immortal arm. But the strong people here also have their own shortcomings, that is, they have all embarked on the path of energy cultivation. As a result, they are not very good at the most primitive strength enhancement and body enhancement. Jia Yan thought for a moment and thought of the joints involved. He smiled knowingly in his heart. It turns out that there are such big flaws here. It can be seen that even in any starry sky, there is no perfect duel. The strong ones here are far more powerful than the strong ones in the immortal arm, but the flaws are so big, it can be said that there are gains and losses. Again, he won again. It's simply a miracle. Player Jia Yan actually achieved a reversal. Using the same method as player Boehm, he defeated 4 opponents of the return force in a row. Now the only thing in front of him is the return force. The last one, and the strongest one, Aloha contestant. Wow! The entire conference site was almost turned upside down. All the audience became extremely excited at this time. At this moment, they felt unbelievable about the player Jia Yan. A part of the audience who originally hated him had become his fans. Although it was only a part, it was a gratifying change. Of course, Jia Yan actually doesn't care about fans at all. Okay, the last contestant who has returned his power, please come on stage. The referee did not show any surprise. It seemed that he had some guesses about Jia Yan's performance. Among the powerful people who have returned to power, even he understands that Jia Yan's biggest enemy may be the last mountain level existence who has almost reached the mid-level starry sky level and whose strength cannot be ignored. Aloha! I really didn't expect that you could defeat my colleagues one by one. Jia Yan. Taking steps, Aloha walked slowly towards the ring. Jia Yan finally had a hint of solemnity. Of the 4 opponents, only the python monster put him in a little danger. In fact, he had not released all his combat power. However, facing this being who had almost reached the middle stage of the starry sky level, Jia Yan could not help but feel anxious. There was a look of calm treatment. The big mosquito fluttered on the ground, looking at the slowly approaching opponent. This is an entity that appears to have countless tentacles. His way of moving is not walking, but countless tentacles squirming, which looks extremely disgusting. Jia Yan looked at this opponent for no reason, not knowing how to deal with him. This guy doesn't seem to have much weakness, or he does. Jia Yan can't see it for the time being. After all, there are so many tentacles, each of which is capable of fighting. Jia Yan is not sure that he can break through their defense before the other party resists, and will this opponent's body was directly defeated. In fact, this is also the result of Jia Yan not having much combat experience. If it is a creature with other combat experience, such as the giant python monster that he has fought before, he might be able to think of a way to deal with it. The battle begins. While Jia Yan was still thinking about how to deal with this opponent, the Stars referee had already announced the start of the game again. Die. Well, Aloha doesn't want Jia Yan to attack first. In his opinion, Jia Yan is also an extremely difficult opponent to deal with, so now he is treating it with caution. If he can attack first, he will not hold back. What's more, in his opinion, Jia Yan has fought 4 games in a row and is definitely weak now. If he can't seize the opportunity and attack before Jia Yan's strength recovers, he will be a fool. As everyone knows, although the evolved beast Jia Yan may not be too strong, his endurance is absolutely amazing. Even if he fights against 4 Starry Sky level players in a row, let alone hiding his strength, even if he fights against strong men of similar strength without hiding it, it is still possible to retain a lot of strength. Jia Yan watched the opponent's body squirm, and the seemingly complicated movements moved toward him very quickly, and he made a slight decision in his heart. He wanted to have some contact with this strong man and then see how the battle would unfold. Jia Yan's speed is also on display. In Jia Yan's opinion, the opponent's speed was not too fast, but at this moment, he did not use extremely fast speed to carry out a breakthrough attack. Both sides are tentatively getting closer. Let's take a look. This is definitely the most exciting battle today. Will the extremely powerful Aloha player win, or will the arrogant Jia Yan player win the final victory? The host explained in a timely manner, and he also showed excitement at this moment. After all, the first game was so ups and downs. It was really a good start. I am afraid that the next games will not be as good as this one. The audience, but you will be very disappointed. Boom boom. When Jia Yan approached the being at the peak of the early starry sky, he directly stretched out his front legs and fired his first probing attack at the opponent. And this tentacle monster has a gleam of light emerging from its huge eyes. One of his tentacles was pulled out like a whip and struck directly on Jia Yan's probing forefoot. However, as Jia Yan's front foot has always been the main means of attack, how could it be easily pulled away by one of Haroha's thousands of tentacles? When the tentacles touched each other, they were shaken to the side. Jia Yan stretched out another front foot at this moment. The other party may not have expected that Jia Yan's front feet could be so powerful, but he had so many tentacles. After one was knocked away, other tentacles continued to spread from behind. Jia Yan discovered that the surface of the monster's tentacles was filled with sticky liquid. His forefoot was touched by the surface of the opponent's tentacles, and some mucus immediately stuck to it. It was so disgusting that Jia Yan refused to give up. It's a tentacle monster after all. If what he fights is not me, but a beautiful girl. Ahem. I was distracted, I shouldn't be. Jia Yan quickly retracted his mentality and concentrated on fighting the enemy. This tentacle monster stretched out countless tentacles. Jia Yan's outstretched front feet were directly grabbed by it, but the opponent also felt uncomfortable. Jia Yan's front feet were not something that was easy to catch. You must know that they are extremely sharp. Especially the top of the forefoot, the sharpness there can be said to be the most elite part of Jia Yan's offensive weapons. So the moment it entangled Jia Yan's legs, Jia Yan's front legs suddenly swung around, directly cutting off 4 or 5 of the tentacles. Ah! We saw that player Aloha's tentacles were cut off by player Jia Yan. If it was an ordinary player, it would be judged as player Aloha's failure. After all, our gathering conference is a competition that is famous for not seeing blood. But the Aloha players are in a special situation, now it's up to the referee to make his decision. All the spectators looked at the referee. The referee watched as the court was still entangled, with Jia Yan constantly cutting, and the tentacle monster constantly using its tentacles to block, or taking the time to attack Jia Yan's body. No problem. Mr. Referee, in accordance with the regulations of the competition, went to Shiyuan to make a decision to continue the game. It seems that Master Haloha's body is definitely abnormal. Even if this existence has been cut so many times, the tentacles still show no sign of weakness. Now it depends on which one of him and Jia Yan will be hit by the opponent's attack first. Before this game started, no one thought that the situation would turn out like this. Jia Yan used his front legs to stab around among the countless tentacles, while Nahaloha used the longer tentacles to attack Jia Yan's body. But Jia Yan actually has similar characteristics, that is, in addition to a pair of front feet, he also has a pair of midfoot and hind feet. It flew into the air about 10 meters, and the other 4 legs except the front legs were constantly waving, blocking all the tentacles of the incoming attacker or cutting them off with the sharp front ends of the legs. Degrees Celsius meow degrees Celsius by degrees Celsius GE degrees Celsius. Tentacles filled with strange liquid continued to fall on the ground, and they did not stop moving for a while, squirming on the ground. It's so disgusting. Jia Yan looked at the tentacles that he had cut off, feeling a sense of disgust in his heart that he hadn't seen in a long time. However, he did not feel too afraid of fighting at this moment, but became more and more brave. Puff 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 puff. Tentacles kept falling to the ground. Wonderful, really a wonderful match. Look, although player Haloha has an overwhelming advantage in the number of tentacles, player Jia Yan has sharp characteristics. His fighting ability is indeed not ordinary. The host promptly praised Jia Yan in front of all the audience. The host obviously knew how to stir up the audience's atmosphere. After all, Jia Yan is too controversial here. There are countless viewers in Dunfa who are having some controversy over this existence. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletin Yu. Chapter 572. Click here to read on mobile phone. You said Jia Yan will win? You are still not from the Dayton tribe. This guy humiliated us before, and you still say he will win. Why did I say he would win? Besides, Master Jia Yan is not the only one fighting in our clan. Why don't you talk about those guys? What's more, it was the Tianlong people who started the fight, and Master Jia Yan was just defending legally. Please, everyone searches for @Yuan, and has the most comprehensive view. The fastest updating novel. There was chaos under the stage. Puff 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 puff. Jia Yan was a little strange during the stabbing. The opponent's strength is close to that of the Starry Sky. Although his current performance is already very up to standard, Jia Yan still feels it. The opponent's strength cannot be so simple. Sure enough, when Jia Yan was concentrating on using his 6 legs and constantly cutting the tentacles, a huge brainwave force suddenly appeared and fiercely suppressed Jia Yan's body. Boom. At the same time, the opponent wanted to take advantage of Jia Yan's immobility to spread out all his tentacles and attack Jia Yan directly. So this is your backup plan. Jia Yan felt that his body was a little stagnant. He knew that his energy was restricted by the opponent's sudden brainwave power for a moment. The fighting methods and combat experience of these star-level warriors were an eye-opener for Jia Yan. He had so little fighting experience with the Starry Sky class in the past that he used only 7 points of power to defeat an existence that originally only required 3 points of strength. And this guy who looked like a tentacle monster also taught Jia Yan a lesson. The opponent is obviously a powerful possessor of brainwave power, but he has waited until now to use his trump card. This is the quality of a qualified strong man. Jia Yan finally gained a lot of experience through his first battle with so many Starry Sky level experts. This experience will be an opportunity for him to improve rapidly. But before that, he still had to win this battle. Brainwave power suppression? Haha, I was born with brainwave power. Thinking of the strength of his own energy, Jin suddenly felt a little contempt for suppressing his own brain waves. This was not because the mosquito looked down upon the opponent too much, but because he felt that the power of this strong man's brain waves was a bit weak. Otherwise, maybe Jia Yan can really suppress him, but the timing is uncertain. Bang! In an instant, Jia Yan quickly broke away from the other party's restraints. Jia Yan's brainwave power has actually reached this level. Aloha was simply horrified. He knew the strength of Jia Yan's body and knew that this strong man's attack power was full of sharpness, but he never thought that Jia Yan's brainwave power and toughness were also so terrifying. Maybe Jia Yan's self-disguise also taught this strong man a lesson, but this kind of self-disguise must be done by someone with strength. Jia Yan's brainwave was released for a moment, and then he immediately restored his brainwave power to the previous level. I see, this Jia Yan just exploded. I still have a few more moments. Seeing Jia Yan's brainwave power drop instantly, Aloha suddenly felt that his winning rate was still extremely high. He violently activated all his tentacles. Boom boom boom. When the tentacles were activated, they were overwhelming, making people stunned. But Jia Yan was not surprised at all, but saw the opponent's embarrassment through this attack. There are many tentacles, which also means that he consumes too much strength and energy. Sure enough, things are not perfect. At this time, the power of this powerful Aloha is exhausted. Jia Yan's brain wave was stimulated, and then his body came into the air. The overwhelming tentacles spread along the ground toward the mid-air where Jia Yan was. He flapped his wings slightly, and then dodged the two most threatening attacking tentacles. Asshole, don't run away if you can, Aloha shouted in a weak voice. Jia Yan turned around and looked at the opponent's body, and then his compound eyes flashed with inexplicable luster. As you wish, his body immediately moved backwards, advancing instead of hiding, and fiercely fought back against the countless tentacles. Flying in the sky, the six legs used super speed and waved quickly. From a distance, they actually looked like tentacle monster. Heavy shadows were waving in the sky. Puff 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 puff. Tentacles fell to the ground one after another, and then they squirmed feebly and stopped moving. It's so exciting. At this time, player Jia Yan actually fought directly with the Tentacle Clan. You know, most races in the entire Starry Sky would not do this, but our player Jia Yan did it, and he did not lose at all. The host made a sound of exclamation on the stage. As a host who has hosted conferences for a long time, it is not easy to meet the contestants who surprised him. But the Jia Yan he saw today was a little surprising to him. Although he is hosting, there are some things that should not be said, but he will not say them to ruin the atmosphere. In his opinion, this Jia Yan is a rough stone, because he can see that although this guy is performing well now, he still has too little combat experience. If he fully explodes with strength, he can definitely defeat these opponents. But this guy obviously knows his own weaknesses and is now working hard to gain combat experience. This flying creature is still improving at an incredible speed. If this continues, he will definitely get stronger and stronger in the next few battles. The host made an evaluation of Jia Yan from the bottom of his heart. However, Jia Yan's strength and future direction are not something he can evaluate. As a party to the incident, Jia Yan himself is the controller. It's just that the path he is taking now is indeed guessed by the other party. He is indeed working hard to improve his strength now. Insufficient actual combat experience, so suppressing strength, fighting against these opponents who could have suppressed and won, cumulatively accumulated one after another. Quantitative changes will always lead to qualitative changes. Boom boom boom. The tentacled monster's attack, under Jia Yan's fierce suppression, became more and more weak in the chaotic battle where he had the upper hand. Puff 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 puff. The continuous falling sounds represent that the strong man's attack weapons are gradually losing their attack power. Finally, when the last slender tentacle fell to the ground, Aloha was left with some tentacles that were much shorter, just like countless short arms, waving desperately, making it impossible for Jia Yan to get close easily. Okay, the battle is over, the winner is Jia Yan. The referee made a sound at the right time. Wow! The entire venue where the conference was held suddenly erupted with violent sounds of wind and thunder. This. Previously, the return force fought against 4 opponents alone, but this time Jia Yan from the Angel camp came on the scene and slapped him hard in the face. Instead, he defeated all 5 of the opponent's players by himself. Strong. Really strong. The last one is hello. But one of our strong men is also very famous. He is almost invincible below the star frame stage, but he was still defeated by Jia Yan. In this battle, Jia Yan has established his status as a strong player, and he can be said to be at the top level in all the early stages of the Starry Sky competition. You bastard destroyer, I don't think this guy can win. After all, in this conference, not only the early stage players are participating, but the strongest ones are even participating. He is a Starry Sky early stage, no matter how strong he is, he can at what point. Some people are happy and some are worried. This comeback battle of the Angel camp brought by Jia Yan can be said to be extremely exciting. First, the first player who returned to the force defeated the 4 strong men of the Angel camp. Originally, I thought the Angel camp would just give up the game, but I didn't expect that the last foreign aid player from the Angel camp would explode immediately after playing. After many battles and quick wins, even in the last battle, he directly defeated Hiroha, who was originally the most promising returning force and the pinnacle of Starry Sky in its early days. This was simply outrageous at first. Jia Yan, you. When Jia Yan slowly walked down the ring as if nothing was wrong, the 4-eyed monster looked at Jia Yan in amazement. He talked for a long time and finally managed to choke out a few words, "Well done." Fortunately, I lived up to my fate. Jia Yan didn't say much, but walked directly to the players' table and slowly immersed himself in his memories. I won all 5 of these games. But Jia Yan knew that he had too many areas to improve. If it weren't for Jia Yan's strength, he would be able to suppress the last tentacle monster. I guess that one will be a tough battle. Don't disturb him. Such a battle must be costly, the 4-eyed monster said to the scaly monster who was about to congratulate the big mosquito. This guy didn't even say a word to me when he came down. The scale monster made a somewhat resentful female voice. But she still didn't bother Jia Yan anymore. The process of the game was very tense. As soon as the Angel camp game ended, the next game started immediately. The 2 sides were also going back and forth, and the battle was very exciting. The spectators on the sidelines of the battle were also mesmerized. At this moment, each and every one of them felt the power of the Starry Sky level powerhouse, and they also faintly narrowed the distance between them and the Starry Sky level powerhouse. The original purpose of holding this kind of conference was not only to satisfy the original stellar powerhouse. There is also some other idea, which is to make all strong people have a desire to get closer to ordinary creatures. After all, even the Starry Sky level strong people have to fight in front of so many ordinary beings. Such a situation, the distance between the 2 parties will naturally become somewhat closer. The following games were also exciting. The audience saw more and gradually forgot the previous performances of Jia Yan, a strong man. Especially when 2 powerful Starry Sky level experts actually met each other in the first round, and the forces they represented just happened to fight to the last place. These 2 Starry Sky level experts collided directly in the ring. Jia Yan also came back to his senses while they were fighting and watched the battle. The end of the battle was a monster holding an axe. This monster had always been suppressed by the opponent's Starry Sky class, who was prone to brainwave power. However, it was just an oversight. The axe monster was chopped down with an axe. If it weren't for the referee, if a strong man appears and blocks the axe, even the Starry Sky period with brainwave power might be dead. It's so enjoyable. The battles in this Starry Sky period can give me a lot of inspiration. Although I can't fight with them now, and I will lose 70% of the time, but absorbing more of their combat experience will be part of defeating them. What a weird thing. Jia Yan was so excited to see it. Seeing Kong Qi is different from other strong men. In Jia Yan's view, these strong men may still be difficult for Jia Yan to defeat for the time being. However, he does not underestimate himself, except for those who are at the level of the referee. Strong people, other strong people, as long as he has more combat experience, it is not impossible to fight against the strong ones. After watching this battle, Jia Yan fell into deep thought again. But when this game is over, today's event is over. Let's go back to our temporary residence. The four-eyed monster gave an order to a group of starry sky-level creatures. Good. Everyone responded with a roar. They can be said to be in a high-spirited state. You must know that today's first round of battle, the Angel Camp won this one, which is an excellent start. As long as they maintain 2 wins, they can pass the initial control of the quota. Entering a stage, and at that stage, as long as you can win a game, the initial quota rights will be automatically exercised. In other words, the Angel Camp will directly have 10 places to enter the Chaos Stone collection point. Jia Yan also saw this and found a way to join this force. If he joined a force that did not have an initial quota, the number of games to win would be far less. Jia Yan didn't have any confidence that he could defeat a strong person from the Starry Sky period, even if he was just a weak person. But looking at the current situation, there is still a great chance in this Angel Camp. Jia Yan, you did a good job today. We won't give up like this in the next battle. After all, you have helped us win a good start. By the way, can your energy be restored tomorrow? The four-eyed monster suddenly asked while flying with Jia Yan. Don't worry, I still have a lot of energy. It won't affect tomorrow's battle. Jia Yan knows what the other party is worried about. After all, it seems that Jia Yan is already their absolute main force. If he breaks out today, it will affect tomorrow. Battle, then unless their Angel Battalion encounters an extremely weak opponent, there is no way they can win. That night. The time used by the Staten tribe is the standard time of the deserted galaxy, which is not much different from the 24 hours of the Earth. So Jia Yan just took a short rest and came to night. Looking at the moon scenery created by the outside world, Jia Yan was recalling the battle during the day. The tentacle monster that returned to power, for me, happened to be the Lian type that was suppressed by me. But today I saw a lot of early stage strong men, some of whom were not suppressed by me, and even the other way around, I might be suppressed. Type, if we encounter it tomorrow or in the future, how will I deal with it? If there is a life and death battle in the future, how should I deal with it? This is the first time for Jia Yan to see so many starry sky level battles in such a short period of time. Today is an eye-opening day for him. It is also the day for him, as a starry level warrior with the immortal arm, to merge into a day that ranks among the strongest in this starry sky. There are still many things in this starry sky that I don't understand, and there are also many strong people that I don't know much about, so I still have a lot to learn. Jia Yan felt somewhat. As he was about to take a short break, there was a knock on the door in his area. Jia Yan, I see today that you don't seem to have much combat experience. These are the combat experience books I collected before, and some are my combat experience. You can take a look at them tonight. I hope they will be useful for tomorrow's battle. The person coming was a scale monster, and the surface of her open scales had a faint pink squirming look, as if she was shy. Thank you. If there's nothing else to do, I'll start reading. Jia Yan felt numb in his heart. After saying all this, he closed the big door. You guy, the scale monster stood at the door and opened his scales angrily. However, she still didn't do anything that made Jia Yan disgusted. She just waited quietly for a while and then returned to the original route unhappily. Why does this scaly monster like me? Behind the gate, Jia Yan felt a little frightened and shook his head. He has a human mentality, and it is extremely difficult not to be frightened by these various monsters now. You want him to be with a scaly monster, a monster girl like Shiyuan who looks very tough? Jia Yan could only scream in the sky, "Forgive me, I can't do this." Huh? How to quickly improve combat experience. And this, why is maintaining a good attitude in fighting the first priority? When Jia Yan saw these suspicious-looking books, she wondered if the scaly monster had bought some low-grade fake books to deceive her, or was she also deceived? However, when Jia Yan opened these electronic books and only turned a few pages, his eyes were immediately absorbed. The sun came early the next morning. The artificial sunlight was gently shining down, and bathing in the sunlight, the big mosquito's body seemed to be frozen, staring blankly at the electronic books. Finally, it was almost time to set off. Call. Jia Yan took a long breath. He closed the e-book and carefully placed it under his arm. It seems that I really owe that scaly monster a favor. Jia Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head. These e-books are not a little help to Jia Yan now, but a huge help. Maybe the scaly monster couldn't even think of it. Fortunately, she worked hard to collect it. Although it may be helpful to herself, it is not. A book that is too big means so much to Jia Yan today. But now let's go to the war. Maybe we can use some of the knowledge in this book today. Today is Uncle Baiyu's birthday. Although I don't really celebrate my birthday, my family still bought cakes and other things, which is quite happy. I would also like to thank all the book friends who have accompanied Baiyu for such a long time.